Before her story begins, the Empire of Ludek thrives on wealth, powerful alliances, and arranged marriages. The Emperor strengthens his reign by wedding the eldest daughter of the Espalindo family, a house known for vast wealth, influence, and an unblemished reputation. From this union, twins are born, Princess Hoya and Prince Rayburn Espalindo, who is immediately recognized as the heir to the throne. The young prince grows under the weight of expectation, trained and prepared to rule, while his twin sister remains a composed and graceful presence by his side. Time passes, and the emperor marries a second empress, the youngest daughter of the Schwandel family, celebrated for producing knights whose military skill strengthens the empire's power. From their marriage, Frederick, the second prince, is born. The imperial family seems complete, a balance of noble prestige and martial might. However, tragedy strikes when the second empress is mysteriously eliminated. No one ever discovers the culprit, but dark rumors spread swiftly, unsettling the court and commoners alike. In response, the emperor makes a shocking decree. Rayburn is stripped of his title as crown prince, and Frederick is named the new heir, officially claiming that Rayburn's cruelty makes him unfit to rule. The empire is soon filled with celebration as the imperial knights return victorious from battle. Rumors of their decisive victory stir pride and admiration among the people, yet the attention of the crowd consistently turns to Duke Rayburn, the dethroned first prince. Whispers spread that he personally led his forces into battle once again and returned unscathed. Many conclude that he must love war, as he continually seeks combat, while darker rumors accuse him and his twin of inviting violence and even implicate them in the death of the second empress. As Rayburn moves among the cheering crowd, his personal guard, Mano, observes quietly that the people remain bold in gossip yet strangely silent in the presence of Princess Hoya. Rayburn's sharp gaze scans the faces before him, and the murmuring ceases almost instinctively. Mano reassures him that nothing is amiss, urging him forward. Suddenly, a little girl breaks from the crowd, with her brother chasing after her, calling her name, Corinne, and apologizing to the prince for her lack of manners. Unconcerned, Corinne boldly calls Rayburn Appa, and proclaims herself his fan. She holds out a novel, titled The Prince and the Rose, asking for his signature. The crowd quickly joins in, echoing Appa, their voices blending in admiration and excitement. Even in this brief encounter, the prince commands attention and respect, his presence radiating authority and allure. Meanwhile, in the quiet countryside, Angela interacts with a local woman who thanks her for her writing. The woman praises Angela's talent and eloquence, encouraging her to leave the village and make a name for herself in the city. Angela smiles politely, though her mind drifts to the city and to the prince, whose reputation both excites and intimidates her. She knows of the unsavory rumors surrounding him, yet curiosity and admiration outweigh her fear. Shortly, Angela hears people discussing the prince's return and how striking he looks. Excited, she runs up to them, eager to know if he has truly come back. They ask if she is also a fan of the prince. She replies confidently, questioning why she wouldn't fangirl over such a handsome prince whose swordsmanship is extraordinary. Curious, she then asks if they became fans because they saw a paparazzi drawing. They counter, asking if she didn't become a fan after reading the novel The Prince and the Rose by Jellypoot. Angela freezes in surprise at the mention. A blue-haired girl explains that 90% of readers fall for the prince and that copies sell out quickly. Curious, Angela grabs the novel, planning to read it quickly and return it afterward. She mutters that she will devour it in a flash. The blue-haired girl protests angrily, insisting that the novel is far too valuable for Angela to borrow. Meanwhile, a brown-haired girl points toward the approaching Imperial Knights. One of the knights calls out, asking if there is anyone named Angela in the village. The girls exchange uneasy glances. At another spot, Angela realizes something shocking. Her fanfic has been published as a novel. The writing style is unmistakably hers. Confusion floods her mind as she wonders who could have done this, since she wrote it herself long ago, and no one else should have seen it. Then she recalls lending the manuscript to a merchant to buy a paparazzi drawing, and concludes he must have secretly published it, sold it, and disappeared. Her head aches as she struggles to believe that people actually paid money to read her fanfic. She even wonders if the prince might have seen it. Still in a state of shock, someone calls her from outside. She hurries over, holding the novel, and apologizes to the blue-haired girl for taking it so suddenly. The girl says it's all right. But behind them stand the Imperial Knights. They formally identify her as the author of The Prince and the Rose, and declare that she is under arrest for disrupting the Imperial family's workings and acting as a spy. Angela freezes, echoing the accusation in disbelief. A spy? Earlier that same day, the Royal Council gathered for a meeting. The General Chancellor addresses the council members, asking if they would agree that Rayburn Espalindo has accomplished yet another remarkable feat. One member nods, noting that Rayburn was merciless in his actions. He mentions the rumors circulating. Rayburn completely burning a surrendered village and burying prisoners alive. The General Chancellor comments that the first prince risking his life for such deeds only adds to his notoriety. He warns that, as the saying goes, a leopard cannot change its spots. At that moment, Princess Hoya Espalindo abruptly stands up, intending to leave. The council leader questions her hurried movement and courteously asks her to remain seated, explaining that the meeting is about to begin. Hoya responds with frankness, saying that the stench of the chamber is unbearable, but she promises to return shortly. A council member protests, offended by her vulgar language, but she pays no attention and walks away. Thinking to herself as she leaves, Hoya reflects on her brother's military feats. She had hoped they would enhance his reputation, but instead, they seem only to worsen it. Passing by, she overhears two young girls talking about her brother. One girl exclaims that the prince is amazing, while the other warns her friend that speaking so openly could cause trouble if they are overheard. Still, she continues. Curious, Hoya approaches the girls and asks about their conversation. They are startled and quickly apologize, explaining that they were discussing how incredible the prince appears in a novel. Hoya is taken aback, barely believing her ears. This is the same Rayburn constantly surrounded by terrible rumors. She presses them for the truth, and they tell her about the novel titled The Prince in the Risey. Meanwhile, elsewhere, someone tells Duke Rayburn that the novel has been gaining popularity among the commoners for about 2 weeks. This, they say, is why the atmosphere in the streets seemed strange recently, and why there was such a commotion among the people. Rayburn glances at the pages, reading a line that describes him as a rose, with a thorn that may have hurt countless bees. Infuriated, he pierces the middle of the novel with a knife. The person who had been praising it as a masterpiece is stunned. Rayburn confesses that he cannot tolerate such blatant mockery and vows to confront the person responsible for writing it. That evening, inside the Royal Knight's carriage, Angela wonders why they consider her a spy. The carriage groans with each movement, as if it's about to break apart. Suddenly, it strikes a stone. The door shatters, and Angela groans, thinking she is sick and tired of carriages. Her thoughts drift to the past. She remembers another carriage when someone offered $50,000 because her guardian claimed she wasn't needed. Her guardian had remarked that, though Angela may not look it, she is a skilled writer, capable of drafting lawsuits, letters, and more. The person offering the money scoffed, saying it was of no use. Angela was destined for a life of farm work. Angela gazes outside and briefly wonders if she should run away. Now, she thinks about the prince. If she escapes, will she ever meet him again like before? Her thoughts are interrupted by the knights, discussing whether they must bring her along. One knight reveals that the matter is being investigated to see if she is acting on the prince's side, but he remarks that it is strange a novel glorifying the heinous scumbag prince has been published. Angela is surprised, but concludes that she has no choice. She must escape. She edges toward the broken door, preparing to jump. Just as she leaps, someone catches her midair. He questions if she is the author of the novel, then carefully puts her back inside the carriage and instructs her to wait. The carriage rider notices a horse approaching rapidly from behind. Meanwhile, Angela's savior climbs to the top of the carriage and attacks the rider. The other knights glance back, realizing they are being ambushed. Soon, the assailant is visible. The knights question his identity, thinking him mad to dare strike the Imperial Knights, until they notice the horse bears the mark of Prince Rayburn. Shock spreads among them as they realize it might be the prince himself. Suddenly, the Duke keeps his sword, leaving the knight puzzled, wondering if he doesn't intend to attack. Deciding it's wiser, the knight resolves to escape and inform the royal family of the situation, but before he can act, someone else rushes toward him. Meanwhile, Angela, terrified, thinks there is no way she will escape alive and silently hopes she might meet the prince in her next life. Someone then asks the Duke about her. He explains that she fainted from shock, and he wonders why the gold-haired man had followed him. The man trembles as he explains that it was the Duke who had been following him on a secret mission assigned by Princess Hoya. He wonders what his sister is planning and why the Duke brought his own horse, and he ponders what the Duke would have done if anyone had discovered him. The Duke pulls out his sword, reminding the man that he had threatened to get rid of the one who wrote the novel. The man halts him, reminding the Duke that the princess had ordered that the author be brought back at all costs. The Duke calmly replies that he is the man's personal guard, not one of his sister's knights, and that the man should know whose order comes first. The man bows, apologizing for his rudeness, but questions if the Duke didn't save Angela for a reason. The Duke responds that they will decide the girl's fate later, after his sister explains the situation, adding that they cannot predict what the princess might do if she finds out the man failed his mission. The man bows again in gratitude, pledging to finish handling the matter, and suggests the Duke return first. The next morning, the Chancellor of the Royal Council considers the previous night's incident gruesome. The guard accompanying him notes that the worn-out arrows likely came from bandits who attacked without realizing they were Imperial Knights, possibly after a noble's valuables. The Chancellor, frustrated, thinks to himself that it is ridiculous to waste time on such a trifling matter over some silly writing. He had wanted to resolve it quickly, but the Crown Prince's displeasure now makes him wonder what the prince is thinking. A subordinate informs him that the inspection is complete. While asleep, Angela dreams of the prince. The vision is so vivid that she wakes up immediately, startled. Looking around, she wonders where she is. The posh furniture and luxury of the room are nothing like her simple village home. Even so, she can't help but feel a spark of delight, thinking about when she might enjoy such comfort again, even if only in a dream. Her mind drifts back to the events of earlier, and she feels a surge of gratitude toward the masked man who had helped her. Without him, she thinks, she might not have had such a wonderful dream. Excited, she resolves to write about the experience the moment she wakes, capturing every detail. Yet a shiver of fear runs through her. Could this be the afterlife? Is she no longer among the living? Questions flood her mind, and regret prickles her for having written the novel that caused all this trouble. Still, she doesn't want to forget the kindness of the Duke, who had helped her when she was younger. Suddenly, a chilling thought strikes her. She recalls the eye color of the Duke and the masked man who saved her. Her heart races, and she screams, terrified at the thought that the murderer could have been the prince. But she quickly refuses to believe it, reminding herself that the prince is a good person. At that moment, a maid enters the room, noting that she heard a loud noise. Seeing Angela awake, the maid introduces herself as Eldridge, the attendant assigned to her. Angela is left speechless, taking in the reality of the moment. The maid warmly welcomes her to Ludect's first prince, Duke Rayburn's mansion. Angela questions if the prince really lives here. The maid confirms it. Angela's mind races, and she realizes with surprise that the masked man who helped her could have been the prince himself. The maid then asks how she should address her, and Angela responds that she's not a scholar, though the maid thinks she seems like a cool person. The door opens, and Mano remarks that he had instructed the maid to come to inform him when the scholar woke up, not to start a conversation with her. Angela apologizes, explaining that she got too excited. A man standing behind Mano adds that he brought some clothes. Meanwhile, Angela observes the workers in the aristocratic house, noting how elegant they look, as if from another world. The maid quickly tells them to stay out for now, since Angela is still in her pajamas, promising to send word when she is ready. The man behind questions this in surprise, and Angela notes that even they are not used to the maid's strictness. Shortly afterward, Angela is seated in the prince's chamber. She wonders if he even remembers her and doubts whether this is a dream. The prince stares at her with an expression of mild annoyance. Silence fills the room, and Mano silently thinks about quitting. A knock on the door breaks the tension, and they are informed that Princess Hoya has arrived. Mano greets her politely, and she responds warmly, acknowledging his hard work. She looks at Angela and remarks that the person sitting must be the author. Angela quickly pleads to be called by her name. The princess gestures for her to sit, saying she is a special guest. Angela can't help but notice how much the prince and princess look alike, and how stunningly beautiful the princess is. The princess then turns to her brother, instructing him to greet Angela. Rayburn drops the novel on the table and questions why his sister brought the author here. She explains that Angela is important to them. Confused, Rayburn asks why she is smiling so broadly. The princess tells him he should be grateful, since Angela turned his messy image into a protagonist in her amazing novel. Angela, sitting between them, feels awkward and stressed. She wonders if the prince also has dimples like his sister when he laughs. The prince asks, and the princess notes that Angela hasn't read the novel yet. He mentions there's a kiss scene between himself and Mano, which surprises Mano and makes the princess laugh. Angela, meanwhile, begins to learn more about his personal guard. The prince references other events from the novel, while his sister notes how much he reads. Trying to shift the topic, Angela timidly asks if the prince was the masked man who saved her the previous day. The princess questions whether he went on the mission with Mano, and Rayburn confirms that he was indeed the masked man. Angela is shocked. He adds that he had intended to kill her, but his sister's intervention is why she is still alive. He warns her that if she wishes to continue living, she must burn all the novels that have spread through the town and disappear from his sight, urging her to act quickly while he is still giving her a chance. The princess observes that her brother seems unusually chatty today, and questions why he is trying to crush the author's spirit. She reassures Angela that she is going to write a masterpiece for them and tells her to ignore her brother's intimidating words. The princess continues, revealing the reason they rescued Angela. They need a sequel. She notes that they recognize the impact the novel had on the public, not just on the prince, but also on the Espalindo family. Despite their family's reputation having hit rock bottom, the book has greatly improved their image. She explains that the Crown Prince's faction probably suspects the Espalindos of manipulating events behind the scenes to reclaim the Crown Prince's position that was taken from them. As a result, they are targeting Angela, whom they see as the main culprit. While the Espalindo name may be tarnished, the princess points out that it is difficult to attack them directly. Capturing Angela and accusing the family of influencing public opinion could have easily cost her life. The princess emphasizes that the family greatly benefits from the novel, while it is poisonous to the Crown Prince's reputation. They rescued Angela to gain even more from her work. She assures Angela that they will protect her from any danger and hopes she will continue writing stories about her brother, all while keeping her identity hidden. Turning to the prince, she questions his thoughts, but doesn't give him time to respond. She lays out the conditions clearly. Everything from the masked incident must remain secret, and if Angela reveals anything, the masked man will finish her before the crown prince even gets the chance. She notes that this is dangerous for them, too. Angela finds the princess intimidating, yet quickly assesses the situation. Realizing that the crown prince's faction intended to eliminate her, she decides to agree and signs the implied contract. Meanwhile, the prince thinks to himself that the princess always does things her way. Afterward, the maid escorts Angela outside. She tells her to forget the clothes she left behind. They will provide new ones suited to Ludek fashion. Angela accepts the offer. The maid mentions she is a new employee, but is glad to serve someone as important as Angela. Angela notes that the maid seems clueless about hierarchy, even though Angela herself held a higher social standing in the village. The maid notices that Angela seems down and encourages her to let go of her worries, assuring her that everything will be okay. Angela sighs, feeling that the maid is right, and reminds herself that she is finally in the city she has always dreamed of. Meanwhile, from a distance, a man hiding in the shadows watches her. Shortly after, the maid asks Angela if she wants to look at clothes. Angela agrees, calling her Miss Eldridge, and the maid chuckles, reminding her to call her Lizzie and to speak comfortably. Angela recalls a moment from earlier. The prince's personal guard had told her not to act awkwardly, assuring her that she now holds the standing of a scholar, a respected position no matter where she goes. He adds that they are also receiving her help as an author, so she can act confidently. Just as he is about to ask about a kiss scene in her novel, Angela had dashed away, flustered. She thinks of that memory as having a bad ending. Lizzie asks if she met the prince earlier and how it went. Angela isn't worried that he didn't remember her, but she admits it was unsettling how different he is from before. She apologizes for writing strange things on a whim, and wonders why he seems so menacing about it. Lizzie, curious, asks if the prince is as cool as he appears in the novel. Angela admits she's read the book many times, and is eagerly anticipating the next one. When they arrive at the clothing store, Angela's eyes widen in surprise. She notes she doesn't have money to buy such luxurious clothes. Lizzie explains that she was instructed to get Angela a generous selection, as she will be staying in the mansion and can purchase items simply by showing a document signed by the prince. Angela asks who authorized it, and Lizzie replies that Sir Mano, the prince's personal guard, did. A lady at the store greets them, but her face flushes when she recognizes her. Apparently, Lizzie has a reputation for wandering the store, messing with the clothes, and leaving without buying anything. She comments that Angela must have it easy, since scholars normally wear simple robes and don't need fancy clothing. She suggests buying something quickly, and then enjoying a treat. Angela's attention, however, is caught by a beautiful dress. Suddenly, the storekeeper interrupts, glaring at Lizzie for touching a dress without knowing its worth. She explains that it is a Louis Vuitton creation and scolds Lizzie for always coming to the store dressed poorly and touching items as she pleases. She doesn't have the money for such things, yet she dared to handle them. The lady tells Lizzie to hand over the dresses she's holding, insisting she isn't going to buy them. Lizzie, flustered and embarrassed, insists she will pay for them today, her voice trembling. Angela is surprised. She had expected Lizzie to argue back. Lizzie feels humiliated, realizing the lady had been judging her all along, and she struggles with the embarrassment of hearing it in front of Angela. Shortly, Angela turns to the lady behind the counter and confidently tells her to pack all the dresses they had picked, insisting that they will buy the entire set. The lady freezes in surprise, clearly not expecting such boldness from a young girl. Angela meets her gaze steadily and adds that she will also be purchasing the designer dress she had been eyeing. The storekeeper gasps, then raises her voice sharply, scolding Angela for daring to grab the dress. Lizzie, on the other hand, nervously reaches for another dress, trying to help. Angela calmly steps forward and opens the Duke's document, showing the signature. The lady's eyes widen, her tone faltering as she realizes who she is dealing with. Angela introduces herself with poise, explaining that she is a scholar at the Duke's residence who had traveled there on short notice, and therefore had no preparation for clothes. She admits she never expected to hear such disrespect in a place like this, but gives the lady the benefit of the doubt, warning her that Lizzie isn't someone to disregard lightly. She hopes the woman doesn't repeat the same mistake again. The lady immediately apologizes, sincere and contrite. Angela takes a deep breath, her heart still racing. She had feared that the lady might somehow discover her true identity. Outside the store, Lizzie beams, thanking Angela for allowing her to wear such elegant dresses. She happily hands her some ice cream and shyly asks if it's all right to use the prince's name to make these purchases. Angela thinks briefly, realizing the enormous sum of money spent. She recalls the princess's words about why they rescued her. They needed a sequel, and they were also benefiting from her skills as an author. She wonders why the prince hates her so much, even though he relies on her work, concluding that it's only fair to spend his money freely, running him dry if necessary. Still, she reminds herself that the prince is a generous person and tells Lizzie to ask for anything else she needs. They will buy it. Lizzie, both surprised and delighted, eagerly agrees. Shortly after, a crowd begins forming outside the store. Curious, Lizzie steps forward to see what's happening. Suddenly, someone grabs Angela from behind, yanking her away before she can react. Lizzie spins around, alarmed, but Angela is already gone, swallowed by the throng. The man holding her pulls her along firmly but quietly. Angela pleads, asking him to let her go, promising that she will explain everything. In frustration, she flings her ice cream at his face, splattering it across him. Her eyes widen as she realizes the man is the merchant who had published her novel. Flustered, she apologizes, questioning why he approached her so suspiciously. The merchant wipes the ice cream from his face, his expression sharp. He explains that all of this is her fault. He has been chased endlessly because of her novel. People keep mistaking him for the author, plastering his image on countless wanted posters, and no matter how fast he runs, there's no end to them. Angela's frustration spikes as she demands to know why he published her work and sold it without her permission, putting her in such a dangerous and complicated situation. The man shrugs defensively, claiming it was his own doing. Angela fires back, insisting he apologize, but he refuses, insisting he is the victim. He then produces a small knife, holding it carelessly, and questions how he was supposed to know things would escalate to such danger. He admits he has no idea why Angela is involved now, but says this is the opportunity of a lifetime for him. He demands that she go to the Imperial family immediately to clarify that he is not the author. Angela's anger boils over. She notices how kind he had once been and is stunned at how far he has strayed. Without hesitation, she slaps his hand, forcing him to release the knife. She dashes away, weaving through the crowd, shouting that the man is dangerous and wanted. From a distance, the Crown Prince rides past in his carriage. The crowd murmurs in surprise at Angela's shout, and even he looks startled, turning his gaze toward the commotion. Angela quickly explains to the surrounding crowd that the merchant is the author of the novel. A knight immediately shouts an order, demanding that they seize him. Panicked, the merchant bolts, but the crowd blocks his path, calling out for his signature. He insists, shouting that he is not the author and demanding they let him go. Angela doesn't expect this sudden chaos and quietly decides it's safer for her to leave. She notices the Imperial Knights nearby and instinctively covers her face, trying not to be noticed. In her haste, she bumps into someone who immediately asks if she is all right. She nods, murmuring a polite, "Yes, thank you." And as her gaze adjusts, she realizes the man is an Imperial Army officer. He notices a trickle of blood on her arm and comments on it, but she waves it off, insisting that it's nothing serious. Another nearby officer asks whether they should chase her, but the first shakes his head and says they should focus on arresting the wanted merchant. Angela spots Lizzie in the crowd and feels a small sense of relief. Meanwhile, she notices the officer beside her glancing at her oddly, muttering that a girl looks ungainly in a dress with loafers. The merchant is soon brought before the officer, still protesting and insisting that he is not the author. He describes the real culprit, unaware that his words will reveal Angela. Hearing the description, the officer immediately turns. The details match the girl he bumped into earlier. Blonde, low status, and the old wanted poster should remain active. His mind clicks, connecting the dots. The merchant, still shouting and demanding they let him go, curses and rants at the officer blocking his path. A knight nearby steps forward, cautioning him and ordering everyone in the area to show respect. The officer turns fully, and the merchant's eyes widen in shock. He finally sees the Crown Prince for the first time. The sight freezes him, and his knife drops from his trembling hands. The Crown Prince picks it up calmly, his eyes catching the blood on it, and immediately understands that Angela is the one at the center of this chaos. In a quiet corner, Lizzie cries softly, apologizing to Angela for everything that has happened. Angela quickly reassures her that none of this is her fault. Her thoughts drift briefly to the crest she had noticed earlier, the emblem of the Schwandel family, who control the current royal lineage. Around them, the brown-haired knight warns the crowd to stay calm. The Crown Prince, watching the scene unfold, instructs him not to be overly rough with the merchant, noting that the crowd is frightened. Angela's mind races as she tries to piece together the events. She knows she wouldn't have survived if anyone had discovered her earlier, and she begins to wonder if now is the moment to make a run for it. Lizzie fusses over her bleeding, blaming herself, but Angela reassures her again, insisting that none of this is her fault. Lizzie sighs softly, admitting that she wore her favorite clothes today, just to make a good impression on Angela. She admits with a tinge of embarrassment that she usually dresses terribly because she never had money. It hasn't been long since she was hired, and she's still new to working in such an environment. By luck alone, she managed to get this position considering her lowly status, but she's never been able to adapt fully, running small errands and trying her best. She admits quietly to herself that important jobs like this probably don't suit her. Angela observes her carefully, realizing that Lizzie has a timid personality and might not handle it well if she were to run away now. More importantly, Angela knows she can't return to how she was in the past. She can't let herself go back to obscurity. She also notes with a small relief that the public remains unaware that she is the true author of the novel. Lizzie, still anxious, murmurs that she must have been assigned to Angela by mistake, and that she'll speak to her superiors to have someone more experienced replace her. Angela shakes her head gently, assuring her it wasn't her fault at all, and suggests they go eat something to clear their minds. She thinks to herself that she will be okay, especially since they promised to let her live if she continues writing at the mansion, though she can't be entirely sure if the prince will truly protect her. Meanwhile, on another side of the city, the prince sneezes repeatedly, frowning in slight irritation. He grabs his jacket and steps out of the room. Mano notices immediately and asks if he's leaving, while the Duke glances at the scene in surprise, questioning why the boy is suddenly coming here. Mano, slightly confused, presses for clarification, telling him to watch his words carefully because many people are around. The prince pays him no mind, stating simply that he will be gone for a few days and Mano should inform the young noble, His Highness, that he is away and ensure he returns somehow. Mano mutters to himself, noting how the prince has put him on the spot and walked off so suddenly. Just then, Mano spots a sword at the gate and moves instinctively, defending the area as he calls out, questioning what the brown-haired man is doing there. The man, calm and confident, replies that Mano is still skilled, but he merely intended to give a surprise greeting. He bows politely to the Duke, greeting him and informing him that the Crown Prince has arrived and requests a few moments of audience. He glances toward the Duke, apologizing lightly if his little joke caused any offense. Rayburn remains silent, his gaze fixed on the man, unmoved and unwavering. On their way back, Angela notices that Lizzie was the only one told to go out, and she questions her quietly. Lizzie responds that Angela asked her to come because she thought she would be bored, and asks if there's a problem. Angela recalls Mano's warning that she should refrain from going out for the time being, since they need to take care of the current situation and see if they can't handle things on the spot. She then tells Lizzie that they should hurry back to the mansion. At the Duke's residence, two men guide the carriage brought by the Crown Prince's knights to the backyard, knowing they will be leaving soon. Han politely cautions one of the Crown Prince's knights to be careful with the plants in the garden, but the knight cuts him off immediately, dismissing the warning. They ignore Han entirely and continue with their duties. Two maids watch from a distance, quietly considering Han poor for bragging about reviving parts of the garden that even the head gardener hadn't been able to save. Soon, their conversation drifts to the Crown Prince, and they murmur among themselves about how handsome he is. The head maid interrupts their chatter, questioning whether they shouldn't be working instead, though she's still curious about whether the Crown Prince visits the Duke's mansion like this often. Unsure, she concludes that something important must be happening. Inside, the two princes sit together, the atmosphere tense but polite. The Crown Prince begins by congratulating his brother on his recent victory, noting that he heard Rayburn played a major role this time as well. He apologizes for visiting so unexpectedly, explaining that he feared his brother would run away again if he informed him ahead of time. He adds that this was the only way he could see him since their sister handles all the official work, and he rarely comes to the palace. Rayburn listens, quiet and patient, and finally tells him to just get to the point and leave because he wishes to rest. The Crown Prince laughs lightly and insists that he need not be addressed as His Highness, telling Rayburn to speak comfortably. The Duke motions for his personal guard to leave, adding that after what happened earlier, it's uncomfortable having them around. He signals the Crown Prince's guards to step back, laughing as he apologizes if his words offended Rayburn. Rayburn in turn warns him to take proper care of his knights, reminding him that if it weren't for him, he would have eliminated one of the Crown Prince's guards earlier. He adds firmly that whether it's his servants or his horses, he won't tolerate anyone laying hands on them, though he quickly insists it was only a joke, noting that it's unlike the Duke to be so upset over such matters. Rayburn thinks to himself that the Crown Prince, the boy in front of him, always took his side when they were younger, to the point of embarrassment. He glances at him now and asks about Hoya, wondering what she was doing at the Duke's mansion when they met earlier. The Crown Prince replies that he should have come earlier, as he has something to discuss with both of them, but they seemed busy at the time. He then reveals that his knights were recently ambushed. Though all were skilled in swordsmanship, their weaknesses were exposed too easily. He adds that the methods used in the attack feel familiar, as if he knows someone. The Duke warns him not to speak nonsense without proper evidence, stating bluntly that he's not in a good mood that day. In response, the Crown Prince calmly continues, explaining that the person who is being transported goes missing after the incident. He adds that a search montage has already been prepared to locate the missing individual and asks if the Duke would like to take a look. Rayburn refuses without hesitation, but the Crown Prince presses further, mentioning that the person in question appears to be the author of a novel that recently risen to fame. He adds that he thinks he might have seen her on his way there. The Duke reacts with visible surprise and asks if the sighting is in his village. The Crown Prince confirms it, but Rayburn dismisses the claim as nonsense, stating that she should be in her room at this time. Meanwhile, Mano checks her room and finds it empty. He recalls pleading with her not to step out, knowing it would bring trouble if she crossed paths with the Crown Prince. Concerned, he decides to search for her and is caught off guard when he encounters the brown-haired guard. The man asks if he truly is the famed Mano. As he glances around the room, he remarks that he would have drawn his sword immediately if he knew he would be this startled. He then questions what distracts Mano so deeply and asks whether he needs assistance. Mano knows he has made a mistake, but he tells Bourbon that there is no need for help, insisting that it is merely another empty room in the mansion and that he should not wander around without permission. Bourbon, however, observes carefully and notes that it doesn't seem like an empty room at all. He questions where the owner might be. Elsewhere, the Duke studies the drawing of Angela closely, his gaze lingering as he begins to notice a resemblance that unsettles him. The Crown Prince asks whether the person in the drawing seems familiar. He proceeds to describe the dress worn by the girl he encountered earlier and asks if she might be someone the Duke knows. Rayburn responds that it's hard to tell from so little information. He adds that if the woman is wearing a dress, then it certainly isn't Angela, concluding that Frederick is mistaken for once, and there is no need to worry for now. He firmly instructs him not to associate their family with that novel, remarking that he hates even looking at it. As the Crown Prince continues speaking, the Duke suddenly stands, grips him by the coat, and begins to drag him toward the exit without warning. The Crown Prince only laughs, amused, and agrees to leave. At the same time, Mano hesitates to continue searching for Angela because Bourbon remains nearby. Soon, the two princes approach the area. Bourbon signals to the other knights and apologizes, asking them to wait a moment as the coachman has gone to retrieve the horses and carriage. The Crown Prince reflects silently that he keeps letting his guard down. Still, he informs the Duke that a victory celebration will soon be held at the palace. He expresses hope that Rayburn will attend, though the Duke immediately declines, stating his distaste for such events. He adds that he will see him out and urges him to leave. The Crown Prince persists, explaining that his visit is meant as a personal invitation and that everyone would surely wish to see the Espalindo family, given their significant role in the war. Despite this, Rayburn refuses once more. The Crown Prince tells him to think it over and attempts to leave the montage behind, but the Duke refuses again, stating firmly that he does not know the woman in the drawing. Before departing, the Crown Prince places a hand on Rayburn's shoulder and quietly tells him to take the drawing and protect the author well, reminding him that Rayburn knows exactly what would happen if his family were to obtain her. The Duke stiffens in shock, his thoughts racing as he wonders how the Crown Prince could possibly know. The Duke's curiosity stirs quietly as he wonders if his brother has figured out that he is hiding the author, though he carefully keeps his expression neutral. He questions whether the Crown Prince truly said he saw the author in the village, and the Crown Prince responds by asking if they aren't supposed to be there. The Duke instantly regrets asking, wondering if he is simply being tested, and he convinces himself that Angela must be in her room. His gaze shifts to Mano, who turns his head subtly, signaling that she isn't there. Memories flash through the Duke's mind. Angela running away the first time they met long ago. Back then, he had believed she would stay by his side forever, and now he wonders why everything and everyone seems to run away from him. At that moment, Bourbon reports to the Crown Prince that he saw an empty room in the Duke's mansion that appears to belong to someone, and judging by the details, it seems to be a girl's room. He cautiously asks if the Duke might be hiding something. The Crown Prince nods in understanding and tells Bourbon to stand back. Meanwhile, the Duke, already striding toward him, instructs that a new guard be assigned immediately. Without hesitation, he draws the Crown Prince's sword to confront Bourbon. The young man defends himself, but the Duke strikes, sending Bourbon's sword clanging into the sky before grabbing him by the throat. Other knights instinctively move to intervene, but Mano steps between them and the others retreat, leaving Bourbon struggling. Bourbon calls out to the Crown Prince for help, but he stands motionless, simply observing the scene. The sword that had been flung into the air lands on a macaron box Angela had been holding, scattering its contents. The Crown Prince frowns at the apparent waste, while Angela mutters under her breath that they are completely screwed. Doubt flickers in the Duke's mind. He wonders if Angela could have really come back. She pulls her hat down low to hide her face, wishing she had come through the back gate if she had known this was where the royal knights would be heading. The Crown Prince, approaching the Duke, remarks that Angela is the one he saw on the street and asks whether she is staying there, and whether he might learn more about her, as she seems interesting. Han, seeing both young women, asks in surprise if Angela went out, his curiosity growing as he walks into the unfolding scene. The Crown Prince addresses her formally as Miss Scholar, while the Duke quickly explains that his librarian needed an assistant, so he brought her here. The Crown Prince laughs, lowering his sword, and apologizes for the commotion, promising to keep his guard under control. He instructs Bourbon to remain on standby at the gate and announces that he is leaving, expressing his hope that the Duke's new scholar will also attend the upcoming celebration so he can greet her properly. He adds that both of them absolutely must attend. Mano signals Angela to move forward, then walks up to the Duke, who is sitting on the ground, and asks if he is all right. Memories from long ago flash through the Duke's mind again. He recalls the people who left him, his companions in Chiran, who vanished without a trace. He murmurs to himself that they will come back someday. His sister's voice echoes, questioning why he holds such beliefs and whether he truly thinks anyone will return. She tells him not to be so weak, reminding him that they have only each other. Angela gently draws him back to the present, holding out the macaron. She explains that she bought it as a gift, but unfortunately it ended up in that state. Lizzie, standing nearby, hands over the one she bought for Mano. The Duke glances at it and wonders silently if this is truly the time or the place for macarons. Angela, still concerned, asks if he is all right. Noting that she hadn't realized people from the royal palace were present when she arrived, she admits that her sudden appearance complicated the situation. Mano observes silently, thinking to himself that the Duke is in a terrible mood, yet Angela's self-awareness seems to ease him slightly. The Duke hands her the drawing of herself, a small smile touching his lips, and tells her to go in and rest. Everyone notices the smile and exchanges surprised glances. As Angela walks in, she wonders if she's really the girl depicted in the drawing, and Lizzie laughs softly beside her. The Duke, still watching her, wonders aloud where she got the dress and confirms that her name is Angela. He turns to Mano, cautioning him to stay alert so that nothing like this happens again. Mano bows and apologizes. The Duke decides to rest in the mansion rather than his usual quarters, his mind still lingering on the earlier. Commotion. Somewhere nearby, someone sketches the moment Angela knelt to present the macaron, noting that they had witnessed something today that could be worth a great deal of money in the future. In the carriage, the Crown Prince glances at Bourbon and asks if he has calmed down. Bourbon apologizes, embarrassed for showing a weak side in front of others. The prince smiles faintly and comments that it couldn't be helped. The Duke is the strongest person in the Empire. He asks if anything else in the room was noteworthy, and Bourbon shakes his head, explaining that there was nothing special. Perhaps they were in a hurry, or the room simply belonged to someone who owned very little. The Crown Prince reassures him that he is not weak and encourages him to follow his heart, to act freely without fear. 3 days pass since the commotion, and Mano suggests that Angela start working on the sequel to her novel. Since the previous day, Sir Agate has been reminding her to be careful, while Lizzie has shown her around the mansion. The place is wonderful, and Angela finds herself enjoying every detail. The kindness of the workers, the elegance of the rooms, and most of all, the delicious food. She wonders if she truly deserves such treatment. Just a few days ago, she couldn't have dreamed of this kind of life. Lizzie, who had worried about adapting to her new role, has now become remarkably popular among the maids after the incident. For the first time, Angela only has to think about herself. With Sir Agate's help, she secures a quiet place to write and spends most of her time in the library. She decides to start the sequel, but the whole morning passes, and she's still stuck on the title. Because she must be careful about what she writes, inspiration eludes her, and nothing seems good enough. Frustrated, she decides to stop for now. Since the incident, the prince hasn't left his room, so she has had no opportunity to see him and draw inspiration. At home, she could have relied on his paparazzi sketches, but here that is impossible. She guesses he must be exhausted, given how busy he has been since returning from the war. After all, he rescued her on the very night of his return, so he must have countless concerns weighing on him. Her thoughts flash back to the scene, and she realizes the man she saw was the Crown Prince. She admits quietly to herself that he is handsome. She also recalls the Duke's friendly appearance in the novel she wrote. It was just what she imagined. But meeting him in person left her speechless and trembling. She remembers the faint laugh he gave at the end, and she wonders if, like the princess, he might have dimples. She thinks it would be nice to hear him laugh again. Shortly after, Sir Agate asks her to leave so he can clean the library. As she prepares to go, she notices that the lights in the prince's room are off and wonders where he has gone. She also realizes she hasn't seen the gardener who tends to the plants every day. Perhaps the prince is in the office, she thinks, and decides to look for a moment before leaving. But she's caught. Mano appears, questioning if she is done writing for the day. She admits she is. He tells her to wait a minute while he cleans something up. She remarks that she only came because the lights were on, and she asks what he is doing. Mano responds that it is work delayed by the war, and that it is his duty to take care of it if the Duke is not present, unless something truly important requires his attention. However, he mentions that he needs to take a break. He asks her something, and she responds, noting that she thought the Duke was there. He explains that the Duke is out at the moment and has an important meeting in the morning. He quietly slipped out through the back door as he dislikes any fuss. He tells her to take a seat, and her eyes fall on a sword lying nearby. He remarks that it needs to be sent to Bourbon and instructs her to set it aside. She thinks to herself how close she had come to having her backside pierced. He talks about the amount of money they spent shopping, and she immediately apologizes, saying she will pay him back with her wages, laughing lightly. He waves it off, insisting that it's fine. Then he asks how her writing is going so far and mentions that they will go over it together when the Duke returns, reviewing it occasionally to ensure everything is on track. She hesitates, unsure what to say, and he notices. When he questions if there is a problem, she asks if he has any paparazzi drawings of the Duke. Surprised, he asks why she wants them, and she explains, though she quickly tells him not to mind. He then notes that the Duke hates such drawings more than anything. He points out that she saw the Duke a few days ago, which will help her, but she remarks that he was very different from what she had imagined. He agrees and recalls the way the Duke had smiled at her earlier. He then asks if she is willing to help him deliver today's paperwork to the Duke, as he has a great deal of work to attend to. She questions him, and he confirms that she will go alone, greet the Duke, and update him on her progress. She thinks it over, then accepts, though Manhwa watches anxiously, clearly uneasy about her going by herself. Later that night, the headmaid checks to ensure the back door is properly locked. She is taken aback when she sees a masked figure approaching and quickly hurries to prevent herself from shouting. Her eyes widen at the sight of something sticking out of his clothing, and she wonders who he is. The Duke steps forward, identifying himself, and she quickly apologizes, explaining that she didn't know he had gone out. As he takes in the scene, he notices teddy bears scattered all over him and immediately asks where Angela is. He gathers the teddy bears and letters, piling them neatly in a corner, deciding to deal with them properly at dawn. His mind drifts back to earlier events. Some of the guards had gone to fetch the horses. He thinks to himself how much he truly dislikes coming to this place. The general standing nearby notes how impressive it is to see the Duke in person and guesses that the princess must be busy. The Duke calmly responds that he is here for work. The general then asks if the crown prince had stopped by the mansion recently, showing him a paparazzi drawing. The Duke raises an eyebrow, wondering where he even got it, and thinks that such a drawing will only cause more problems. The general continues, mentioning that he wanted the Duke to eliminate the parasites, and remarks that it seems the Duke hasn't had a chance to rest yet. The Duke replies that he will be careful and advises the general not to meddle too much in other people's private matters. He adds that the general should focus on practicing his swordsmanship because next time, a careless strike could cost him more than just a wound. The general mutters a curse under his breath. Soon, his guards return. The general mounts his horse and tells the Duke that he has nothing more to say because, as always, the Duke remains unchanged. With that, he leaves. As the gates open, the people outside seize the opportunity to rush in, and the general stumbles. He calls for his guards, demanding to know where the sudden crowd came from. The crowd hurries toward the Duke, showering him with teddy bears and letters. He takes it all in stride, promising himself that he will deal with the author of the book properly. Meanwhile, the general regains his footing, bewildered by the sudden chaos. One of his guards draws a sword, but he immediately orders him to stand down, reminding him that these are commoners and their actions shouldn't ruin the family's image. Someone in the crowd questions if the general isn't part of the Schwandel family, while another comments that something serious must have happened to him. They continue discussing how the family seems rude and arrogant, noting a rumor that the crown prince's escort knight had drawn his sword in the village just a few days ago. The people quietly conclude that this family could be as dangerous as they appear in the novels they've read. Back in his chamber, the Duke sits with a novel in hand, reading intently. Something about the story makes him tense, and he notes silently that it carries a certain danger. At another end of the mansion, Manhwa dozes lightly when the headmaid walks in, informing him that she is there. He asks if Miss Rebecca is still working, and she explains that it's because of Agate. She then updates him that the Duke has returned and requests that he inform her in advance whenever the Duke leaves, as it often surprises her. She laughs lightly before adding that the Duke is searching for Scholar Angela, and ominously said, "If I see her, she's unalive." Manhwa freezes in surprise. The maid continues, noting that Angela is probably asleep at the moment. She apologizes for being a bit late to inform him, explaining that she had been busy catching rats, and teases that it's all because Manhwa keeps messing around like this that she has to deal with pests. However, he notes that they are in trouble. Meanwhile, Angela is a bit nervous about being alone with the Duke, but she has a weird feeling. The Duke reads a passage in the novel. Where did the rumors about Prince Papa, who was already crown prince, murdering the second empress come from, huh? The Duke notes that Frederick may react sensitively to it, and that it was a sharp part hiding in all of the nonsense. To him, it's mostly nonsense. Other pages question where the rumor that says the twins of the imperial family are only called for blood comes from, and what benefits they have from the war that has been raging these last recent years. Rather, it's the Schwandel family whose stature depends on military power. The Duke then realizes that it's the reason people said that about the general. He can't believe Angela mentioned the Schwandel family, and he notes that she wrote it dangerously. One can't dig into the imperial family so openly in a popular book. There's a knock on the door, and he tells the person to come in. She walks in excitedly, calling him Prince. He spits the water in his mouth in surprise. He wonders why she is there. He thought it was Agate. Meanwhile, she thinks the prince is cute in his pajamas. Though she is so nervous, she proceeds. She questions if he had a good rest. He is confused, wondering if she didn't get the message, and notes that she is too bold. However, he tells her where to put the paper. He concludes that she has something else to say, while she notices that he doesn't feel good, so she decides to ask next time. Shortly, he tells her to sit, and she admits that she has something to say. He intends for her to sit a little over, not so close to him. He can't help it. She doesn't understand his reaction, so she decides to say whatever and run away. She then states that there are a lot of rats in the mansion. She sees her book on the floor and wonders if he was reading it. She decides to ask him something. He tells her to get straight to the point. So she questions if he remembers her, explaining that they took care of Sharan together. Back then, she plays with Rayburn Espalindo. Then she hears the rumor that the first prince, the former crown prince, murdered the second empress just 2 days ago. Shocked, she runs away from him. At the moment, he touches her face and questions what she is implying by asking if he doesn't remember her. Squeezing her cheeks gently, he tells her to answer. She pushes him away immediately, stating that he's too close. She realizes what she just did, her face heating with embarrassment, so she explains hurriedly and says sorry. Meanwhile, the prince freezes, startled by her unexpected actions. However, he sits up, and she starts talking about the novel immediately. He stops her, telling her never mind, that they can talk about it next time, and she reluctantly accepts. Now her mood is terrible. She can't believe she acted that way upon seeing him for the first time, and she wonders anxiously what if he avoids meeting her from now on. Suddenly, he takes the novel from her and questions if she didn't have another purpose for coming. Then he mentions that he will visit her study the next day. He suggests that she goes to rest since it's getting late. She smiles nervously, stands up, and takes her leave. But Mano opens the door, yelling her name, and the door hits her lightly. He immediately asks if she's unharmed. She responds, "Not anymore," and he apologizes. Still, she leaves, stepping out quickly. Mano thinks about the headmaid's words that the Duke will deal with Angela, but he also apologizes internally for visiting the Duke so suddenly. He notices the letter from Princess Hoya hasn't been read yet, and he recalls that she also sent him a letter instructing that he should inform the Duke about her visit to the mansion soon, because she doubts the Duke would read it himself. Meanwhile, the Duke questions if he remembers Sharan. He responds that it was the baby bird he raised when he was younger. The Duke asks if she really ran away. Mano responds that he's not sure, then informs him of his sister's visit. The Duke permits it, so Mano leaves. Only then does the Duke realize he forgot to tell Mano to get rid of the teddy bears, but he notes that it seems he hasn't rested for the past few days. Elsewhere, the General Chancellor visits the Crown Prince. He commends the guards at the gate before stepping in. Inside, he frowns deeply, his expression stern. The Crown Prince questions what he's doing there so late. The General grabs him firmly and questions if he isn't lucky, whether this is the time to be playing around and if he realizes what he witnessed today. He notices Bourbon unsheathing his blade at a distance, curses under his breath, and instructs him to leave immediately if he doesn't want to become unalive. Bourbon bows and departs quickly. Meanwhile, Frederick notes that the general shouldn't have stopped by so late at night, because his fiancée could have been visiting. He then questions if something bad has happened. The general seizes him immediately, his hand raised as if to slap him. Prince Frederick flinches, recalling a past moment as he reacts instinctively. However, the general pauses, his expression hard but measured, and remarks that it's unbelievable Frederick is afraid of something so trivial. With a sigh, he releases him, stating that he can't even control his own guard, and that while Rayburn is constantly growing, Frederick remains so young and foolish. He adds that his mother would be disappointed if she were still alive. He clarifies that she's his sister before she's the prince's mother, and he knows what she wanted far better than Frederick does, so he shouldn't be ill-mannered. The Crown Prince thinks to himself that the general is acting like his father, yet he wonders why the general is here at all. The man responds curtly, explaining it's because of the vulgar book that has been circulating. He wants to know why Frederick hasn't managed to take care of it, despite focusing on it for the past few days. He adds that Frederick must understand the gravity of what he had to deal with because of it. Prince Frederick notes quietly to himself that the general refused to listen to him before, and now he finally understands just how serious the situation is. Then the general spills what he has discovered. The original author is currently staying at Prince Rayburn's mansion, and Frederick has pressured her to attend the upcoming party. The general shakes his head, considering it a constant pain. Everything Frederick does seems to aggravate him. He bluntly states that the Crown Prince should just eliminate her. The young prince counters internally that if rumors of an elimination were to spread at this moment, it would only make things worse. Public opinion is currently obsessed with the novel, so it's not something that can be resolved easily. He reasons that the author could be very useful if she joins them willingly. He just needs to ensure her loyalty. However, the general frowns, noting it would become quite difficult if Rayburn develops feelings for her, but he instructs Frederick to handle it before it's too late. At Rayburn's mansion, Angela sits quietly, thinking to herself that the Duke remembers her but is deliberately pretending he doesn't. Her mind flashes back to his expression during that earlier encounter, dangerous, commanding, and undeniably handsome. She shakes off the thought and turns her attention to planning what she will wear the next day. Suddenly, a rat scuttles across the floor and bumps into her. She screams in fear and kicks it away instinctively. Before she can recover, she sees someone approaching and shouts in surprise. Prince Rayburn hears her cry, his instincts kicking in immediately. He grabs his sword, realizing it's his fault she was left defenseless, especially with even the General Chancellor having been involved earlier. He throws on a coat and dashes out without hesitation, moving as fast as he can toward her. Mano also hears the noise and quickly steps out, spotting the Duke. Their eyes fall on Angela, who is holding a young man she calls a pervert. The person protests frantically, insisting that he isn't one. Angela holds him firmly, explaining the situation as best she can, but soon the young man stumbles and falls, dropping his bag in the process. Without hesitation, Mano decides to give chase. He leaps down from the balcony, startling the person even further. Meanwhile, Angela feels a pang of guilt. She hadn't intended for Mano to put himself at risk on her behalf. The Duke, however, calmly states that they still need to apprehend the trespasser, regardless of whether it was her. He asks her if she noticed any other suspicious individuals, and she shakes her head, affirming there were none. The Duke, still slightly worried, notes that the entire situation is so bizarre that he never got a proper look at the person's face. Angela, trying to help, hands him the fallen bag. He inspects it carefully, observing the young man's clumsy demeanor. Judging by this, he concludes that the person is unlikely to be an assassin. Instead, he's probably a paparazzi. Opening the bag, the Duke discovers a sketch of himself holding Angela's cheeks earlier. He freezes for a moment, astonished at how he had behaved with her, completely unaware of how intimate it had appeared. Shortly after, Mano reports that he lost sight of the person by the back entrance, but he intends to pursue him on horseback to capture him. The Duke turns just in time to see Mano slam his head on a tree. Realizing that Mano is far too sleepy after several sleepless days, he tells him not to go. The Duke frowns, considering the situation troublesome. The person had managed to hide his presence so effectively while making sketches, proving his skill at stealth. It confirms the Duke's suspicion. This is definitely the paparazzi the General Chancellor had warned him about. He thinks to himself, a shadow crossing his face, that if the Chancellor finds out the paparazzi escaped, he will undoubtedly unleash some again in secret. The Chancellor has grown vicious toward them. Meanwhile, it's Angela's first time seeing a paparazzi up close, and she finds the whole situation surprisingly interesting. Yet, at the same time, she can't help but express shock, noticing that the drawings in his possession are exactly the same as the ones she had seen earlier in her room. She thinks to herself that, with this guy's drawings, she doesn't really have to worry about the novel being compromised. However, a thought quickly crosses her mind. She really wants to catch the guy herself because now she has seen his face clearly. The Duke, on the other hand, knows very well that he can't send her alone on this task, but he also realizes that it's best they catch the guy as soon as possible. He considers sending Mano, yet he immediately dismisses the idea because of the way Mano is currently, and he recalls the princess's earlier words about how important this period is and how carefully he needs to guard the estate. She had emphasized that she's trusting him completely, so after a brief pause to think it through, he concludes that the best course of action is to accompany Angela personally to search for the person. He instructs Mano to get some rest, though the young man isn't entirely happy about being left behind because he knows he's lacking in some areas. As they walk past him, Angela notices that he is so tired he is practically sleeping while standing, and the Duke quietly tells her to just leave Mano alone for now, because he has his own problem to deal with. Outside the mansion, Angela notices how bright the streets are, even though it is nighttime. The Duke quietly tells her to cover her face, explaining that there is nothing good in showing it openly, and she promptly agrees. As she moves alongside him, she can't help but think that this whole situation feels almost like a secret date. She asks him about their progress, and he calmly replies that since he didn't get a clear look at the guy's face earlier, he has to rely on his instincts now, which means it could take a little while to track him. As they continue walking, Angela reflects silently to herself that he probably always has to deal with countless threats because of all those terrible rumors about him. And now he has to protect her as well, in addition to handling the responsibilities of the royal family. To her, seeing him so constantly on guard even here in his own village feels somewhat pitiful. They wander down a quiet, lonely street, and after a moment, she suggests that they head toward a place further ahead. The Duke immediately remarks that it's dangerous to go to crowded areas like that, but Angela argues that if she were the person they were looking for, leaving her bag behind might force her to go somewhere crowded. She continues persuading him gently, saying that he shouldn't worry because there are actually more people who like him than he might think. After a moment of thought, he finally agrees that they should go there, though he cautions her to slow down as they proceed. Misunderstanding his warning, she actually moves faster, and the Duke has to remain extra vigilant, aware that enemies from the Chancellor could be lurking anywhere, and everything around them seems suspicious in his eyes. Despite regretting having brought her along, he hurries to catch up to her. Shortly after, fireworks suddenly light up the night sky. They both stop for a moment, standing together and watching the display. Angela, still excited, suggests that they walk around a little while to enjoy the spectacle. The Duke, however, realizes once again that trying to protect her is going to be far more difficult than he initially anticipated. He instructs her to remain vigilant, while she, feeling a little embarrassed, apologizes softly because it has been so long since she last saw fireworks, and she got a little carried away. The place is like a tourist spot dedicated entirely to the prince, filled with decorations and memorabilia that celebrate him. Angela notes quietly to herself that it seems even more lively at the moment, probably because it's nighttime, and she thinks it would be fun to come back here sometime with Lizzie to explore properly. Shortly after, they notice someone acting very theatrically like the Duke, moving among the crowd and even giving free hugs to anyone who approached. She finds the whole situation absolutely hilarious and can't help but laugh, thinking to herself how many people genuinely love the Duke. Meanwhile, the Duke himself considers the scene nothing short of an eyesore, frowning at all the commotion. Seeing it as a distraction, he suggests they leave for somewhere quieter. Angela recalls that she had come here before with Lizzie, but now the crowd feels overwhelming. She hesitates for a moment and questions whether the Duke is really okay navigating through such a place, as it seems far too crowded and chaotic. She then gently explains to him that the people might be expressing their adoration a little excessively, but it comes from genuine affection for him, so he shouldn't read anything negative into their behavior. But they overhear a conversation between two men nearby. The first man complains that the town has turned into a shitty mess lately, all because of a single hunk of paper, referring to the infamous novel. The other man joins in, mentioning the rumors of the Duke's cruelty and also the chilling idea that the Imperial twins would bring about bloodshed. Yet, he admits that the book is strange in its own right. Angela listens in silently, feeling a pang of discomfort at hearing such things, though the Duke calmly remarks that the two men are not entirely wrong. He explains bitterly that whenever he had gone out to war, people had wished for him to just become unalive. And they had been particularly bitter on the days he returned with injuries, as if wishing his wound had been a little deeper. That history is why he can't bring himself to think of the current crowd in a good light, now that they have switched sides so quickly and cling to him with adoration. Angela tries to encourage him gently, reminding him that those rumors were groundless and that he did not, in fact, eliminate the Empress. But the Duke challenges her, asking what if, hypothetically, that rumor had been true. She stares at him speechlessly, unsure of how to respond. He continues, explaining that the new rumors circulating nowadays are similarly groundless, yet he presses further, asking her what she would do if the past rumors she denies turned out to be true. Angela feels her stomach tighten as she thinks, realizing she had almost forgotten how frightening he can be at times. He notices the subtle shake in her composure after only a few words, and wonders quietly where her confidence even came from, though in his mind, he still considers her no different from the others who flatter him. Just then, a young man named Blen walks into the scene. He is trying to rent a room on credit, despite having unpaid debts lingering from before, but the person in charge refuses him sharply. Not giving up, Blen walks over to the two men discussing earlier and announces that he can draw them a caricature for some money. The men scoff at him, calling him a little kiddo and a scammer, dismissing his offer outright. The Duke quietly leans toward Angela and instructs her to check Blen's face carefully, noting that this is exactly the person they have been looking for. Angela, however, is lost in her own thoughts for a brief moment, wondering silently why she had trusted the Duke so completely all along, even amidst such chaos. Meanwhile, Blen walks up to them confidently and casually asks Angela if she wants a caricature, promising that he would draw her so she wouldn't look ugly. Angela immediately notices something familiar about him and realizes that he is the paparazzi she had been looking for. At the same time, Blen recognizes her as well, his eyes widening slightly in surprise. Without hesitation, the Duke grabs him firmly, startling Blen completely. At that moment, someone else arrives at the scene, questioning loudly what is happening. Angela quickly responds, trying to keep things calm, saying that they are just greeting an old friend of theirs. The Duke, however, wastes no time and instructs Blen to follow him quietly without causing a scene. Blen nods in agreement but can't resist calling the attention of the people around, loudly announcing that Prince Rayburn himself is present. The crowd gasps in confirmation, excitedly acknowledging his presence, and they begin offering gifts, creating a commotion. Seeing that Blen is trying to make a run for it amidst the distraction, Angela decides immediately that she has to go after him. After a tense few moments of chasing Blen, he remarks half annoyed, half amused that people might assume he had beaten her up if they saw her like that. He questions aloud why she jumped off the edge when there was a perfectly normal ladder right there. Yet he quickly clarifies that he isn't feeling sorry for her at all, and firmly asks why she is even chasing after him in the first place. Despite his tone, he reaches out and helps her up, adding that he would feel bad if he left her there. Angela, seizing the opportunity, immediately grabs his shirt, holding on tightly. She calls him out directly, calling him Blen, the paparazzi who only ever stalks Prince Rayburn. Blen is genuinely surprised that she knows him, his expression a mixture of shock and amusement. Angela explains eagerly that she is a huge fan of his drawings, and then she quickly apologizes for calling him a pervert earlier, feeling slightly embarrassed. Soon, they settle on the ground, sitting close together as they begin talking. She reveals that she started collecting his drawings 5 years ago, and Blen responds, noting that it was back then when his drawings of the prince didn't sell particularly well. Yet he thanks her sincerely for being such a diehard fan. Angela smiles, saying that it was all because of him that she could continue standing Prince Rayburn so passionately over the years. Then, more seriously, she explains that she chased him down to confirm something important, showing how determined she is. Meanwhile, someone watches from the shadows, a man lurking quietly and calculating his next move. He thinks to himself that now would be his chance to target Angela, especially since the prince isn't right there to protect her. But he notes to himself that she is rarely ever alone and always seems to have someone with her. Still, he decides that he has to act quickly and get rid of her along with Blen before it's too late. The Duke, standing firmly in front of him, narrows his eyes, having already suspected something suspicious. He questions silently to himself who would have thought that the Chancellor would actually send an assassin. Observing the situation carefully, he concludes that the Chancellor remains as simple-minded and predictable as ever. The prince is only protecting the author because of Hoya. He thinks to himself that he probably should have just pretended he didn't see her and left her alone, letting things take their course without getting involved. Still, as Angela continues talking with Blen, she leans forward eagerly, expressing her curiosity about seeing all of his drawings of the prince that he's sketched so far. She asks in a mixture of excitement and wonder, wanting to know exactly how he managed to capture the prince even on the battlefield. Blen responds calmly, explaining that no matter how badly he might need money, he doesn't fabricate things. He only sketches what he sees with his own two eyes. He goes on to tell her that he started doing this minor genre of sketching because he thought that focusing on something that others weren't doing might unexpectedly become profitable. However, because of all the bad rumors surrounding the prince, his work never really gained much attention or success. He adds that he had even considered stopping and following someone else instead, but as one can tell from the drawings themselves, the prince ended up being far too interesting to stop sketching. He pauses for a moment, then glances at Angela and asks if she's crying. She admits quietly that she's trying to stop fangirling, partly because of the harsh and sometimes horrifying rumors about the prince, which, as Blen points out, the prince doesn't even bother trying to deny. Despite that, she quickly adds that, to her, the prince is genuinely a good person, and she wishes that others wouldn't dwell so much on those cruel and unfounded rumors. Her eyes light up with determination as she leans closer, and she asks Blen if he wouldn't help them, explaining that she considers his drawings extremely useful for their purposes. Blen thanks her for saying that, though inwardly he knows that being a paparazzi is more of an eyesore than a help to the prince. Angela, undeterred, voices her sincere wish. She wants to protect him from any strange or damaging rumors, ensuring that his image remains intact and that people don't twist the truth about him. As the prince looks away for a brief moment, the assassin decides to make a run for it. In that instant, he also concludes that he needs to take care of the prince before escaping. Suddenly, the prince turns sharply and catches sight of the man moving toward him. From where Angela and Blen are sitting, they hear a sharp metallic sound, the assassin's knife clattering to the ground just in front of them. And Angela freezes in fear, her heart racing. The prince calmly gives the assassin an ultimatum: either become unalive right there or deliver a clear message to the general that he must never, under any circumstances, lay a hand on the author again. The prince emphasizes that if the general tries to threaten her again, whether or not he actually receives the message, the prince will absolutely not tolerate it. The assassin bows deeply, overwhelmed, and flees immediately without further hesitation. Angela, who has only just started observing the situation, reflects quietly to herself. She realizes that people often misunderstand the prince because he rarely explains his intentions clearly. They believe only what they see at the moment, without grasping the hidden meaning behind his actions. She exhales and thanks him softly for protecting her in that way. She adds that she will take it upon herself to reveal the hidden meanings behind his deeds, so that others will not be so easily swayed by rumors or shallow impressions. After that tense moment, the prince kicks the fallen knife away with a flick of his foot. He reaches out for her hand, pulls her up to her feet, and leans in slightly to whisper. He warns her not to trust him so completely, because he does not trust her either. He adds with a faint smirk that she did well by successfully losing the paparazzi and handling the situation. Meanwhile, the assassin is retreating when Bourbon intercepts him. Bourbon questions the man briefly, and the assassin explains the message from Rayburn and provides further details. Without hesitation, Bourbon eliminates the man immediately. After dealing with the threat, he turns and heads straight to meet Prince Frederick. The next morning, Mano questions Angela about whether they finally caught the paparazzi guy at dawn. He admits quietly to himself that he regrets falling asleep the previous night, thinking he could have been more useful. Angela, on the other hand, waves it off with a light laugh, saying that it's fine and that it was actually fun in the end. She recalls how Blen had proposed to draw even more sketches, but the prince had warned him sternly not to come near the estate again. She giggles quietly to herself, remembering how Blen had even offered up his hidden stash after she promised to give him a hefty payment. Mano shakes his head, noting that engaging in paparazzi behavior and trespassing on the Duke's estate is a serious offense. He thinks that, given the circumstances, the Duke was far too merciful to simply let the man go. Angela blushes slightly as she recalls a particular moment with the prince during the chase, and she remarks softly that he's just so cool. Mano stares at her for a while, clearly amused, then asks if she actually slept over at the mansion. Angela quickly lies, saying that she stayed up all night writing. Mano raises an eyebrow, wondering silently if she really likes the prince that much, and he concludes that she's acting just like a child in love. Shortly afterwards, Sir Agate enters to inform them about the princess's arrival. Mano frowns to himself, questioning if Princess Hoya didn't say she would visit the next day instead. Soon, the princess meets Angela and greets her warmly, immediately curious about how things are going. Angela responds politely, explaining that she is making preparations to start writing soon. The princess raises an eyebrow and teases her, asking if she's been fooling around the entire time. Angela explains that she's been brainstorming for a suitable plot and even suggests a scene involving a late-night downtown outing with the prince to catch a paparazzi. The princess and the prince both wave off the idea casually, though they seem entertained by her enthusiasm. After a brief pause, the prince informs Angela that he'll be leaving soon, noting that she didn't tell them about her visit today. Angela quickly explains that it's only a day earlier than expected, and the prince simply smiles, tells her to have fun, and begins to leave. Before he goes, she quickly asks him about Prince Frederick's visit and about the sword she sees nearby, wondering if it belongs to Bourbon. Mano blushes slightly, feeling guilty because he was supposed to put it away, but Angela arrived earlier than expected. She also questions why Mano didn't report this to her. The prince calmly defends himself, stating that it isn't the kind of matter that needed to be reported to her. Angela sighs softly, then asks about whether he will be attending the banquet. She continues, noting that the news has already spread among the nobles, and that she also heard Angela was invited. The princess comments that Frederick must have figured out the author's identity, reasoning that there's no way he'd be so interested in their new scholar otherwise. She questions if the prince truly tried to hide this from her, and remarks, with a small frown, that they had promised there would be no secrets between them. The thought makes her feel a little depressed. Angela quickly reassures her that it's not that complicated. She explains that she simply told the prince she wanted to go to the banquet. She continues, smiling faintly, that while she may be shameless in some ways, she believes that visiting different places will inspire her to write more creatively. Angela adds quickly that the prince had to follow her because she had been nagging him too much, insisting that it wasn't his intention to hide anything from the princess. She explains that everyone, including the prince, has been busy with various matters, and even Mano has been staying up for 4 nights straight to help keep things in order. The princess raises an eyebrow, questioning if that's really true. Mano nods slightly, confirming that Angela did seem exhausted from trying to continue working on her novel, despite all the distractions and interruptions. The princess sighs softly and remarks that the banquet isn't a place where one can simply fool around and have fun. And she asks seriously what Angela intends to do if someone begins to suspect or question her during the event. Angela responds confidently that she knows the stakes and that attending the banquet is actually a big opportunity for her to publicly resolve previous misunderstandings. She assures the princess that she will thoroughly prepare to avoid making any mistakes that could compromise her position or reveal her identity. The princess frowns slightly, noting that Angela seems to be taking things a little too lightly, but the prince interjects calmly. He states that Angela is stubborn, but she's also gutsy and capable of adapting to any situation. He adds that with proper guidance and preparation, she will be able to handle the banquet successfully. Then he turns to Mano and asks when exactly the banquet will take place. Mano responds that it is scheduled in 5 days. The princess immediately yells at Angela to stand up and start walking right away to begin her practice. Angela obeys obediently, but shortly after, the princess bursts into laughter, teasing her by questioning why there are creaking noises as she walks. Humiliated but determined, Angela asks if they could help her out a little so that she could be fully ready within 3 days. She wonders quietly to herself where her sudden confidence is coming from. So, Mano puts her through her walking practice diligently. After much repetition and effort, Angela finally asks for a break. The prince shakes his head, reminding her that there isn't time for pauses if she wants to be ready in 3 days. They continue practicing, but she struggles to get the steps right. Frustrated, she yells out without forming words, and the prince calmly reminds her that she asked him to help her in the first place. She pauses and questions whether he isn't busy, since he's already been stuck teaching her all day. He responds that he cannot let the maids teach her because they don't know proper palace etiquette, and hiring an expert is impossible because her identity must remain hidden at all times. Angela is grateful that he cares so much, but she hadn't expected him to be so meticulous about the way she walks. She finds it nerve-wracking to have him watching her every movement so closely. Despite the pressure, she decides to continue practicing seriously. The prince notices that her feet are swollen from all the training, but he also sees that she is trying her best and pushing through the discomfort. Shortly, he informs her that she will eventually have to walk in high heels at the banquet and asks if she is okay with that. Angela expresses surprise, admitting she never even thought of it before. In her next attempt, she twists her ankle and falls abruptly. The prince raises an eyebrow, wondering why she is so clumsy, his expression unreadable. His mind drifts to his sister's words, lingering in his mind. She had said that she wasn't entirely sure how much of what Angela said could be trusted, and he knows they cannot afford to be blindsided by the Schwandel family. The warning echoes in his thoughts. The moment their plans go awry, they may need to get rid of her. So he shouldn't allow himself to get attached to her, no matter how endearing or capable she appears. It takes 5 long hours to fix her posture and perfect her stance. Then they move on to the next step. Learning history and general language from the Liberian, followed by etiquette lessons, and then a short break for writing. By night, she finally goes out with someone and buys a prince-themed mug and a delicate handkerchief. Meanwhile, a few people ask about Angela. Lizzie explains that she has been stuck in the library for days, which is unfortunate because she really wanted to go out and have some fun. The prince, returning quietly to the mansion, notices in secret that everyone has been so absorbed in preparing for the banquet that no one has been paying attention to security around them. He also realizes that if Frederick hadn't discovered he was hiding the author, he wouldn't have even been invited to the banquet, and they wouldn't have to go through all these troublesome preparations. He considers the situation a real pain. Angela hears footsteps and mentions Lizzie, reminding her that she can't go out today. But it's the prince who has walked in. He remarks that she should have gone out if she was going to act like this. Angela screams in surprise and tears the paper in front of her. Then she notices her nose is bleeding, and the prince immediately asks why. She ignores him and promises that she will be ready the next day, which is the 3rd day, adding that she still has some studying left to do. She then mentions that he must be busy as well, but he came to the library and she wonders if he isn't tired. He doesn't answer her directly, his gaze fixed on what she wrote earlier. He notes that since it's a banquet, she wants to dance too, though she probably won't get a chance. He then remarks that her nosebleed is likely the result of sitting inside all day reading books, and he tells her to get up immediately. She tries to offer an excuse, but he swings her chair slightly and threatens her, insisting she hurry up before he lets go of it. Finally, he offers to teach her how to dance. Shortly after, he begins giving her instructions. She shouldn't step forward at all unless someone invites her to dance. Mano will stay close to her, acting as her cover so she doesn't need to worry. He continues, explaining that there's nothing to gain from drawing attention to others, but he wants to teach her this just in case. She can hardly believe what's happening, yet when the prince offers his hand, she hesitates for only a moment before taking it. Suddenly, she accidentally steps on his foot. She quickly apologizes and mentions that it's dark, making it hard to see. He calmly tells her to lift her head, keep her eyes on her partner, and follow the rhythm carefully. Despite his instructions, she keeps stumbling on his feet, though he deftly adjusts to avoid her missteps. She can't help laughing, and he questions her softly, asking if it's funny to her. She denies it quickly and reassures him that she won't have to worry about the novel for now. She then explains that she started writing when she was little by jotting down all her pleasant dreams so she wouldn't forget them, and that's how she eventually ended up writing about him. She adds that since coming here, it has felt like she's living in a dream. Her thoughts briefly flash back to the memory of sitting beside the princess and having the first conversation with the prince. Feeling a playful impulse, she decides to take a small revenge on that incident by stomping on his feet again. She says, "Sorry once more," and in response, he begins using both hands to guide her movements. He sternly tells her that there shouldn't be any more mistakes. He adds that if she stomps on his feet again, it will be obvious that she's doing it on purpose, and he will stop immediately. She notices that his movements have subtly changed, making it nearly impossible for her to step on him again, even if she tried. Shortly after, he remarks that she's following his lead quite well now, a hint of approval in his voice. In a flashback, someone tells a blue-haired girl to look up into the distance at the Ludext Empire's kingdom castle. The sky in the Ludext kingdom stretches impossibly high, and she quickly decides not to look. Her maid sighs softly and calls her poor thing because she is crying again. She has heard that the crown prince of Ludext is a man surrounded by dark rumors as deep and impenetrable as the color of his hair. Naturally, she is terrified of the day when she, a princess from a small neighboring kingdom, will be engaged to the crown prince to form an alliance. Yet, the day arrives, and she finally sees him. A white-haired, gentle prince. She feels a sense of honor in meeting him, her heart swelling with respect and awe. She notices the sky in Ludex seems lower than ever, as if the kingdom itself is bending toward her gaze. She is Princess Garnet. At that moment, someone informs her that the tea party is starting. She frowns slightly, wondering why no one refers to her as Crown Princess. She gazes down at the people assembled below and notes to herself that, despite their efforts to dress up and impress, Ludex will soon belong to her regardless. She curses under her breath at the crowd, questioning what they are so excited about, and wonders whether Prince Frederick is in his office. Meanwhile, Angela is brimming with excitement as she sees the castle so close. Prince Rayburn, noticing her reaction, questions what she's so thrilled about. She whispers to Mano that it's the day of the banquet and hesitantly asks if Rayburn is nervous at the moment. He explains that it's been a long time since Rayburn has attended a banquet at the castle, especially one of this magnitude. Angela understands and recalls that he was once chased out of the castle when he was dethroned from his position as crown prince. They continue whispering softly for a while, and then Rayburn instructs her to get off the vehicle but reminds her to make sure she arrives at the banquet on time. He warns that otherwise she will only dawdle around with nothing to do. She insists that he take her along, and Mano is also asked to step aside. He questions if the prince will be all right by himself, and Rayburn replies that he wants some peace and quiet for a moment. Then he instructs Nano to go around and check what the atmosphere is like, and he accepts without hesitation. As he walks through the crowd, he immediately notices that the mood feels restrained, as usual. Angela quietly questions if he is nervous, and he simply shakes his head, saying no. She then requests that he show her around the village. A sudden noise captures Mano's attention. He quickly looks in the direction of the commotion and hears people talking about the tea party. In that moment, he realizes the reason Rayburn instructed Angela to arrive later. At another end, Princess Garnet thinks to herself that everyone seems to be acting as if they are at war with one another. The people around her praise her, calling her the Crown Princess, which makes her blush in embarrassment. She responds politely that she feels embarrassed because they are still only engaged. Some of them ask if she is planning to announce her marriage at the upcoming banquet, while others remark that they are curious to see how handsome the prince will look when he arrives. Then someone asks if it's true that the first Prince Rayburn will be attending the banquet. The words echo in Garnet's mind. Prince Rayburn Espalindo, deep and dark. Her teacup slips from her fingers and falls to the floor immediately. Concerned voices ask if she is all right, and she apologizes, explaining that she got nervous because it has been so long since the last banquet. Soon, a lady walks in and informs everyone that she saw the first prince, Duke Rayburn. She adds enthusiastically that he is so handsome and tall, just as the novels describe him. Garnet quickly stands, announcing that she will take her leave to continue her preparations. Immediately, the conversation continues around her, and Garnet feels a wave of irritation. She notes that these people were on her side earlier, gossiping and chatting, and now they seem so easily impressed. She wonders aloud what could be so great about someone who has been dethroned and stripped of his title as crown prince. Meanwhile, the nervous Prince Rayburn quietly asks a guard about his sister, Princess Hoya, and instructs him to inform her to come see him as soon as she arrives. Suddenly, as Garnet reminds someone to call her Crown Princess, she bumps into a figure and instinctively turns around. Her gaze meets Rayburn's, and for a moment, time seems to pause. Meanwhile, the lady who arrived earlier comments aloud, spilling that it must feel strange for Garnet, considering her original fiancé was the first prince after all. Someone nearby warns her that Garnet is still present. Princess Garnet, meanwhile, stares intently at Prince Rayburn, trying to steady her thoughts, while he quietly notes to himself that if she truly is the princess, then she will one day become the crown prince's wife. Her maid leans closer and whispers who Rayburn is, prompting Garnet to realize that she should properly greet him. Gathering her composure, she bows slightly, and Rayburn bows in return, greeting her formally and introducing himself. Garnet is surprised. She cannot believe that the person she had once feared bows politely to her. The onlookers watch the exchange, considering it strange and out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, the General Chancellor, observing from a distance, wonders if Rayburn arrived without his usual attendants, and he is concerned about the author because the assassin he sent has not yet returned. Despite this, Prince Rayburn calmly remarks that he and his sister will greet Garnet properly in the banquet hall, leaving little room for speculation. Garnet, still curious about his expression, reaches out toward his face, questioning if he is feeling unwell, noting the worry etched across his features. She politely offers to accompany him to his room, showing concern. As he gently takes her hand away from his face, he instructs her to refrain from actions that might cause misunderstandings, reminding her that many eyes are watching their every move. Shortly after, he hears the Chancellor state that he is going to see the Crown Prince. Rayburn walks away from Garnet, leaving her to quietly reflect. She notes inwardly that his personality seems no different from the rumors she has heard, yet she cannot help but think that his hands were soft regardless. Elsewhere, in a private room, a maid refers to Bourbon respectfully as Miss, and comments that she looks very pretty with her short hair, though long hair also suits her really well. Bourbon feels awkward. Oops, she's really a girl after all, and hits the glass covering the dress. The maid laughs, thinking she might actually consider wearing it. She responds that she's still thinking about it. Then the maid asks if there's someone she wants to look good for. Bourbon thinks about Prince Frederick and remarks that she wants to make him smile. Then he notices the Chancellor passing by, and he wonders silently what kind of threats the man will try to use this time. He walks along the corridor, dismissing the guards stationed at Frederick's door, noting to himself that he will personally guard the entrance. As he continues, he overhears a conversation suggesting that Frederick shouldn't put it off any longer, but should propose in front of everyone at the banquet, so that no one can do anything foolish. Bourbon nods silently in agreement. Meanwhile, in the walkway, Garnet spots Prince Frederick approaching at a brisk pace. She wonders aloud where he is rushing to when the banquet is about to begin. He remains silent and walks past her without so much as sparing a glance. Garnet reflects inwardly, thinking that even the infamous first prince had bowed politely to her. She wonders how Frederick dares behave like this, considering he only became crown prince through a battle for the position. Her thoughts linger. The first prince was actually of higher status than Frederick, so shouldn't he treat her better? After all, she was supposed to marry the first prince, Rayburn, who was superior to him in rank. Distracted by her thoughts, Garnet slips on the stairs. Her maid gasps in fear, but someone catches her just in time. She thanks the person, assuming it is Rayburn, and notices the person smiling at her before walking away. Garnet reflects that he must have acted that way earlier because so many people were watching. Soon after, Princess Hoya bursts into laughter as she enters a room. She finds what happened earlier hilarious. She had come all wrapped up to check on how things were going, and everyone had assumed she was Rayburn. Hoya remarks that she made her brother some more fuss, especially on the staircase. Rayburn, unfazed, questions what took her so long. She responds that he scared her half to death and wonders why he is sitting there looking so gloomy. She asks about Mano and Angela, and he explains that he told them to arrive on time for the banquet so they could avoid the attention of the other nobles as much as possible. Hoya is surprised to learn that he came alone and wonders how he managed to handle the gazes of so many people. Rayburn remains silent, and Hoya observes him carefully, concluding that the author isn't the problem here. She walks up and hugs him, teasingly noting that he is still a scaredy cat. At another angle, Prince Frederick stands gazing out over the city, wanting some quiet time and fresh air. Bourbon, who has followed him, apologizes, reminding him that guarding him is his duty. He also notes that everyone will begin searching if Frederick remains outside for too long. Frederick listens quietly, then notices chatter below. Looking down, he sees Mano and Angela hurrying along, clearly aware that the prince must be waiting. Frederick, with a small smile to himself, wonders if Angela came wearing loafers today as well. At the moment, Mano is standing at the entrance of the hall. A guard approaches him and informs him that they are about to shut the doors, explaining that the banquet is about to begin. Mano immediately pleads for more time, asking the guard to wait just a little longer. Meanwhile, Angela is nowhere to be seen. She wanders around elsewhere, clearly lost, wondering where exactly she is and how she ended up in the wrong place. Soon, an announcement echoes through the hall, declaring that Prince Rayburn Espalindo and Princess Hoya Espalindo are now entering. As they step inside, Hoya expresses her gratitude to Angela, noting that thanks to her, they are able to attend the banquet at all. Rayburn's gaze immediately shifts toward the entrance, where he notices Mano standing alone. He silently wonders where Angela could be at such an important moment. Not long after, another announcement follows, introducing the arrival of Ludext's crown prince, Frederick Schwandel, along with Vestia's princess, Garnet Osley. The Espalindo twins greet them accordingly. Garnet offers Rayburn a warm smile, while Hoya suddenly realizes that Garnet is the same lady she encountered earlier on the staircase. The recognition lingers briefly in her thoughts. The crown prince then steps forward and welcomes everyone present. He expresses his gratitude to all the guests, giving special thanks to the 2 members of the Espalindo family who led their nation to victory. He also thanks them sincerely for accepting the invitation and honoring the banquet with their presence. As the speech continues, Hoya quietly tells Rayburn not to cower, reminding him that things are different now compared to before. Just then, a door opens unexpectedly, drawing attention. Angela walks into the hall, apologizing openly for being late. Hoya immediately wonders why Angela entered through that particular entrance, while Mano subtly signals her from where he stands. Murmurs spread among the guests as people begin to wonder who she is, questioning her audacity to walk in while His Highness is speaking. Some remark that she has no class or dignity, while others speculate that she might be an undercover paparazzi. As Angela walks down the stairs, Mano steps forward and offers her his hand. The murmuring slowly changes. The guests begin to reassess her presence, concluding that she actually carries herself with grace. Curiosity replaces criticism as they wonder which family she belongs to. Some of the men even begin to express interest, already thinking of asking her for a dance. Hoya then recalls a recent incident and questions whether Angela is the same person who could not walk straight a few days ago. She notes to herself that Rayburn seems to be the only worrywart among them. Rayburn, on the other hand, smiles faintly and remarks that Angela appears to be quite an interesting person. Hoya reacts with visible surprise at his comment. Soon, the music begins to play, signaling the start of the dance. Garnet draws Frederick's attention, and the 2 of them step onto the dance floor together. As they move, Mano leans toward Angela and tells her how amazing she was, noting that most people would have been trembling in such a situation. He also observes that she seems calmer than usual today, and comments on how luxurious the entire place feels. Angela listens, then wonders aloud how it must feel to dance in a place like this. Meanwhile, Mano casts a sharp glare at the 2 men who keep staring at Angela, his expression clearly displeased. They soon recognize Mano as Rayburn's knight. Angela turns to Mano and questions whether he thinks she looks strange standing there. He answers calmly that she does not. She then points out that they are the only ones standing alone, separated from everyone else in the hall. After a brief hesitation, Mano admits that the situation is his fault. He explains that Prince Rayburn instructed him that it would be best if Angela did not interact with the other nobles at all, if possible. Although he follows the order, he feels bad about it. Angela, however, thinks that the prince is underestimating her far too much. As she looks around, she reflects silently that being in such a luxurious place only makes the distance between them even more obvious. The surroundings remind her of how different their worlds are. Still, she reasons that she's merely a fangirl. She thinks that if she were in his position, she also would not want a single fan to ruin such an important occasion. With that thought, she decides to let go of the idea of dancing entirely and focus on regaining her composure. At the same time, Princess Hoya pulls her brother aside and informs him that they need to talk. Meanwhile, Angela tells Mano that they should at least get some food since they are already there. Hoya remarks that it is a relief that people are not paying as much attention to Angela as she initially feared, and she believes there will be no problem as long as Angela continues to lay low. Rayburn listens, yet he cannot stop worrying about her. In the end, Hoya decides to tell him about what happened on the staircase later, concluding that the situation is too complicated to explain right now. Across the hall, Garnet cannot stop glancing in Rayburn's direction. At the same time, the Crown Prince quietly observes Angela's actions from afar. He wants to understand what kind of person she is, but he finds it difficult because there is no one around her except Mano. Hoya suddenly asks Rayburn if he has become attached to Angela, reminding him that she warned him earlier not to. He pauses, wondering if he has even thought about that possibility. A memory surfaces in his mind, recalling the moment he watched Angela dance. Still, he responds that he does not know. Hoya clicks her tongue and tells him to fix his habit of glossing over things with vague answers. Not long after, Garnet notices movement and questions where Prince Frederick is going. Her words draw attention, and the people around her express surprise as Frederick walks across the hall. He stops in front of Angela and asks her for a dance, adding that it would be rude of him to leave a beauty like her standing alone in a corner of the banquet hall. Angela's mouth opens in shock. The surrounding guests murmur among themselves, noting that this is the first time he has ever done something like this. Garnet watches in disbelief, wondering who Angela is and what exactly is going on. Hoya grows visibly worried, while Rayburn instinctively moves forward. She immediately cautions him, warning that it will become strange if he approaches as well. Nearby, Mano wants to decline on Angela's behalf, but Bourbon quietly reminds him that mere knights like them should not interfere in such matters. With that reminder, Mano steps aside and remains silent. Angela understands how strange it would be to refuse the Crown Prince's request. She reminds herself again that she is just a fan and that she is not allowed to ruin an event like this. As Rayburn struggles, he tells his sister to let go of him. At the same time, Angela accepts Prince Frederick's request, placing her hand in his. Hoya slowly realizes that her brother is the one who taught Angela how to dance. She watches the movements more closely. At the same time, the Crown Prince, who is now dancing with Angela, remarks that he is glad to see her again. He asks how her stay at the Duke's mansion has been so far. Angela answers honestly, saying that Rayburn is a kind individual and a wonderful man. Even as she speaks, her gaze shifts slightly, and she wonders why Rayburn looks so sad from behind. Suddenly, their feet bump lightly against each other. Angela immediately apologizes, startled by her own mistake. Frederick reassures her calmly, telling her that there is no need to be nervous. His voice is steady, and it helps ground her. She recalls the Duke's earlier instructions clearly, remembering how he told her to lift her head, keep her eyes on her partner, and follow the rhythm they share. With that thought, she steadies herself. She then tells herself that there is nothing to be sad about, not here, and not now. Deciding not to let her thoughts drift elsewhere, she focuses on the music and the movement. Frederick notices the change almost immediately. He sees that she is finally smiling, genuinely this time, and he smiles back in response. From a distance, Rayburn watches the two of them. As he observes the scene, he questions what he is doing, thinking that he looks like an idiot standing there. Without lingering any longer, he begins to leave the hall. A lady approaches him and asks for a dance, but he ignores her completely and walks past. The lady, left behind, turns to her friend and comments that his expression was intimidating. She concludes quietly that perhaps novels truly are nothing more than fiction after all. Meanwhile, Frederick asks Angela whether she finds it comfortable dancing with him. She answers that she is grateful because his lead is easy to follow. Hearing this, he feels relieved. Angela, on her part, thinks that her reply sounded surprisingly sophisticated. At the same time, she notes to herself that he must be surprised that she is actually good at dancing. Her eyes drift again toward the direction where Rayburn had been standing earlier. She looks carefully, only to realize that he is no longer there. The realization distracts her for a brief moment. Suddenly, her foot twists awkwardly. Frederick notices immediately and sees that she is wearing loafers. Instead of drawing attention to it, he asks softly if she is all right. In one smooth motion, he covers her with his cape, shielding her and preventing others from noticing her shoe. She apologizes again, admitting that she keeps causing him trouble. Frederick responds calmly, saying that perhaps he should not have insisted in the first place. Angela quickly says that it is all right, trying to ease the moment. He then suggests that they stop dancing there. She nods in agreement, remarking that others are surely waiting for him. With a polite bow of her head, she thanks him sincerely for the dance. As she returns to the side of the hall, Manhwa immediately notices her and asks if she is all right. She answers that she is fine, then steps outside to get some air. Manhwa watches her leave, clearly concerned, but saying nothing further. From inside the hall, the Crown Prince keeps his gaze fixed on her retreating figure. Nearby, the Chancellor curses under his breath, noting that Frederick is becoming more and more out of control. As his thoughts churn, he suddenly realizes that the girl Frederick danced with must be the author. This realization unsettles him. He begins to wonder whether the assassination failed after all, and his mind immediately turns toward making new arrangements. Glenn, standing close by, expresses fear when the Chancellor suddenly drops his glasses near him. As he bends to retrieve them, the Chancellor reflects inwardly that a good disguise is truly a double-edged sword. At the same time, he considers the situation a complete mess, because he never imagined that things would spiral into something like this, nor did he expect to be drawn into such complications. Outside the hall, Angela stops and slaps herself lightly, trying to snap out of her thoughts. She wonders what is wrong with her and questions why the Crown Prince would ask her to dance in the first place. She considers whether he was trying to get information out of her, especially since she recently joined the household of his political opposition. Even so, her mind drifts back to his kindness earlier, when he covered her shoes with his cape so no one would notice her loafers. She feels a wave of regret that her shoes slipped off in the first place and silently hopes that Princess Hoya did not see the embarrassing scene. Her thoughts then shift naturally to Prince Rayburn. She turns toward a nearby window and looks through it, spotting him standing there. She wonders what he is doing in that place and what might be going through his mind at that moment. Soon after, Garnet approaches Prince Rayburn and calls out to him. She asks gently whether something is weighing on his mind. From where she stands, Angela suddenly notices Garnet hugging Rayburn, and she cannot hide her surprise at the sight. Angela wonders if the situation between the two of them is appropriate. As she lingers in her thoughts, a lady suddenly approaches her and asks whether she is not the same person who danced with the Crown Prince earlier. The lady continues eagerly, saying that she has been hoping to chat with her, and then questions what Angela is doing standing alone in that area. Angela remains silent, caught off guard. The lady tilts her head and asks if something is wrong. After a brief pause, Angela lies and says that she lost her way. The lady laughs lightly and tells her to spill the tea instead, clearly more curious than concerned. Meanwhile, Rayburn pulls Garnet aside, creating distance between them. He notes calmly but firmly that he has already warned her once today. He then adds that he is not sure why she is acting this way, but reminds her that His Highness, the Crown Prince, will start to worry if she remains absent for too long. Garnet scoffs slightly and responds that Frederick does not care about her in the slightest. Still holding Rayburn's hand, she questions how much better everything would have been if he were the one standing by her side as Crown Prince instead. Before Rayburn can respond, Angela suddenly raises her voice, exclaiming about how beautiful the fireworks are in the sky. Both Rayburn and Garnet notice the shout, and Garnet instinctively pushes him away. She quickly convinces herself that no one noticed their closeness and decides that she must be more careful from now on. At the same time, she wonders who the people shouting about the fireworks might be. The lady standing near Angela suddenly recognizes Rayburn. As Rayburn notices Angela, he steps back into the hall. From where she stands, Angela begins to wonder whether she did the right thing by drawing attention earlier. As Rayburn walks through the doorway, Garnet follows after him and apologizes for pushing him away earlier. He responds evenly, saying that it is fine and that he will pretend he did not hear what she said back then. Garnet, however, interprets his calmness differently. She believes that he must have feelings for her as well and questions him about it directly. Rayburn makes his stance clear, stating plainly that he never had feelings for her. With that, he turns and walks away, leaving her behind. Garnet is left confused, wondering what the incident on the staircase was truly about, especially since she believes he was the one who initiated it. As these thoughts linger, she recalls the moment the twins entered the hall earlier and remembers noticing Rayburn's sister. She thinks to herself that no one would be able to tell the difference between the twins if Hoya dressed like a man. So she wonders if Princess Hoya played a trick on her. Meanwhile, Manhwa, who is standing at the entrance, notes that Angela is taking an unusually long time. Suddenly, he hears a lady telling others that she just met Angela, and he assumes that Angela must be feeling better now. Hoya then calls Manhwa's attention. He responds and explains that he was about to leave to find Angela. She gives him a task to carry out while he searches for her. Angela is sitting in a quiet room as thoughts run through her mind. She notes that if she asks the prince about what happened earlier, he will not tell her the truth. Blen walks in carrying several glasses. She immediately yells that he is there without the prince's permission again, and she adds that she will report him. Blen is surprised to see her, but he promises to give her just one paparazzi drawing. He pleads with her not to report him, explaining that this work is his lifeline. She commends his drawing skills, noting that they are as good as ever. He is pleased that he has won her over, and she remarks that it is nice to see him there. As she looks through his drawings, she asks why he drew the crown prince so well while she looks somewhat odd in the same piece. He explains that he simply added her to the drawing. She responds that there is a clear difference in treatment. He notices her expression and asks what is wrong, then tells her to hand the drawings back to him. She asks why, and he tells her that she looks depressed. He then questions her directly, asking if she is planning to ditch Prince Rayburn for the crown prince just because she danced with him once. She responds that he has it wrong. She explains that it is only because Rayburn looks so different here at the castle. Her eyes are filled with tears, and Blen thinks of her as a dummy. At that moment, Mano spots the two of them from a distance and immediately grips his sword. Blen curses her and hands her a drawing, saying that is the only one he can give her. She complains about how she looks in it, and he remarks on her face. She tells him to keep quiet and asks for a more decent one. Meanwhile, Mano pulls out his sword but notices someone close and attacks, only to realize it is Prince Rayburn. Rayburn questions whether his sister ordered Mano to raise his sword against Angela, then adds that Mano is even pointing it at him, and asks whose knight he truly is. The earlier noise causes Angela and Blen to flee. As she runs, Angela wonders why she keeps avoiding Rayburn ever since she came to the castle. The drawing slips from her hand and falls. She picks it up, thinking she truly wanted a different drawing because this one reminds her of how Rayburn looked back then. She wishes the other half of the scene did not exist. She curses herself and questions how she can call herself a true fan, yet she continues running. Rayburn thinks to himself that nothing has gone his way since arriving and realizes he dislikes coming here after all. Mano kneels and gives excuses, thinking that the situation must have shocked Rayburn so much that he cannot think straight. However, Rayburn explains that he has concluded that, as long as Angela is working with them, it would be dangerous if her trust in Mano wavered even slightly. Mano notes that since arriving at the castle, Angela has seemed anxious. Rayburn tells him to lower his voice and adds that her behavior is his fault because he himself was unable to trust her. He tells Mano to blame him instead and remain quiet for now. Soon, Angela climbs the stairs. Rayburn quickly tells Mano to compose himself, stand up, and report to Princess Hoya. Angela sees Mano and asks if he was looking for her because she took too long, then apologizes. She adds that she wanted to talk to the prince about someone. Rayburn removes something caught in her hair and tells her to come with him. She is surprised when he pats her head, and the two of them leave together. Behind them, Mano is left standing, regret creeping in as he thinks about what he was about to do. Elsewhere, Garnet hesitates to enter the hall. She considers returning to her room instead. For a moment, she wonders if the crown prince would come looking for her if she left without saying anything, but she quickly convinces herself that he would probably be relieved by her absence. In her mind, it no longer matters whether it is the crown prince or the other prince. She feels exhausted by Ludex's people altogether. Rayburn's earlier words about the crown prince worrying about her resurface, and she scoffs. He knows nothing, she thinks, and he has no idea what his twin is doing. She wonders if he would have cared at all if it were him instead. Walking beside the prince, Angela lies and says she was not running away because she saw him. She wonders how he knows his way through the castle so easily, then remembers that he grew up here. It suddenly feels like she was teasing him for no longer belonging here, and the thought makes her uneasy. He then says he wanted to tell her something earlier. When she asks what it is, silence settles between them as he looks at her. She closes her eyes, but he tells her to open them and shows her how to properly wear the cape over her dress. She realizes she had gotten excited over nothing. He asks if she has any idea how hard it was for him to hold back his laughter because of her. She wonders if it was really that funny. Seeing him laugh like that, so openly, feels strange and unfamiliar. It leaves her with a small sense of defeat, and she turns away, his touch still lingering in her mind. Rayburn feels conflicted today, though he can't quite tell if it's because he's back in the castle. His mind drifts to the past. He remembers the Chancellor informing him that he was relieved of his position as Crown Prince of the Ludex Empire. Hoya had told him to pack, reassuring him that everything would be okay if they spent a few quiet years at the mansion in Odebel. She questions if he's going there again, quickly adding that it's his fault things turned out this way, then catches herself, thinking she shouldn't be saying that. He calmly picks up the bird and says he has nothing to pack. His sister can go ahead. He'll stop by the palace first and follow after. She asks him what he's planning to do there, but he doesn't answer right away. Angela draws him back to the present. She admits, embarrassed, that she thought he wasn't interested in her when the Crown Prince asked her to dance. He remains silent, staring at her. She wonders if she's doing something wrong with her outfit, but quickly adds that her concern is about being the center of attention if she dances with the crown prince. She asks if he wasn't worried she'd make a mistake. He responds that he couldn't bear to watch, which surprises her, as she hadn't expected him to care so much. She hesitates, then asks about what happened earlier on the terrace with the future crown princess. He thinks it's no different from gossiping. There's nothing he can really say. His mind drifts again. He recalls the warnings. Twins bring bloodshed? The bishop's words were right. The first empress, their mother, pleads for reason, while the general explains the second empress. His younger sister was assassinated. Rayburn listens, fuming, questioning if the first empress even knows about the terrible rumors circulating outside. The man reading asks the king if he should continue, and His Majesty agrees. Back in the present, Angela wonders why he isn't answering her like usual. She shrugs it off, noting that he looks handsome today. She chats casually, guessing he's lost in thought, then suggests they head back to the palace. Meanwhile, Rayburn recalls more of the past. His sister had warned that she couldn't stop him from going if he had to, even amid everything happening. He would have to take an ordinary carriage. Old Man Mac, their coachman, and nearly everyone else had already left. She may not know what's waiting there. Rayburn's attention snaps back as he sees her moving to leave. He stops her gently, saying he's afraid and can't explain what happened on the terrace just yet. She smiles and responds that she can't wait until he's ready to explain. Then she admits that she thought he approached her because of what she just said. Curious, he asks what she meant, and she tells him she said she wanted to dance with him. He feels like laughing, but instead remarks that she really never changes. An insect flits around them, landing briefly on their hands before flying away. Finally, he agrees to dance, noting that she's worked hard all week, but he insists they stay here, as he isn't going back to the banquet hall. She accepts gladly. Meanwhile, in the hall, Princess Hoya reflects on Rayburn. Ever since she saw how heartbroken he was after losing a baby bird he'd grown attached to as a child, she's always wanted to take care of things before Rayburn could get too attached. She hated seeing him whine when they shared the same face, but when the time came, she doubted herself and pushed the decision to Mano. If Mano and Rayburn chose to trust Angela, she reasons, then Angela must be worthy of that trust. Gossip spreads that Rayburn apparently rejected some ladies rather harshly earlier. Some people wonder why the new scholar isn't present, noting they had so many questions for her. Others say that Madame Lowell went to look for her. Meanwhile, many consider the Crown Prince reliable because he is staying until the end of the banquet. Someone approaches Rayburn to ask about the Princess Garnet announcement. He declines, noting he has nothing to announce. With the chatter around him, Hoya steps forward and asks one of the nobles to dance. Mano is surprised and wonders if she thinks everything will turn out fine, since new rumors are bound to spread after the banquet. She calmly responds that things are going the way Frederick wants for now, but it doesn't matter. As long as the author is on their side, they only need to keep their focus on the bigger picture. Outside, Glenn is absorbed in sketching Rayburn and Angela as they dance. He feels relieved, finally able to put effort into a scene he truly wants to draw. Lady Lowell and the others notice the pair dancing and are surprised by how beautiful the scene is. They remark that Rayburn looked cold earlier, but now, he clearly has a romantic side, just like in the novel. The General Chancellor overhears the ladies discussing the story and mutters in frustration, noting that they're really getting on his nerves. Back then, the General Chancellor wondered how long Frederick intended to keep whining. He remarked that his mother would be upset to see him like that, then handed him a robe and instructed him to wear it. His Majesty was holding a conference that evening regarding Crown Prince Rayburn. Frederick asked fearfully why, but the Chancellor told him not to ask unnecessary questions. He added that it was for his older sister, so Frederick just needed to obey. It's all a dream. Frederick wakes up thinking he didn't expect disobeying his uncle's order to marry to be this exhausting. He remembers that he didn't even go see him after the ball and wonders if his uncle has finally given up, but he knows better. He wouldn't give up so easily. Outside his room, the guards change shifts. The one leaving breathes a sigh of relief, saying he'd rather guard the underground prisons than stand idle here. Shortly, Frederick notices an insect jump onto the novel on his table. He decides to step out for some fresh air. At Rayburn's mansion, he arrives at the author's library. The lights have been on since dawn. A note on the door reads, "Hard work in progress, do not enter." He opens it anyway, thinking he knows her well. She will catch a cold and complain all day. On the table, another note reads, "Ms. Librarian, if you see this, please keep it a secret from the prince. I'll be back soon, and I doubt he'll let me out at night." Walking with Lizzie, Angela says it's so nice to finally go on a walk now that the banquet is over. She suggests they do it again before heading back. Lizzie agrees and adds that she can't wait to give her friends the mugs with the prince's image. Angela hopes she hasn't been caught yet, but Lizzie draws her attention to something, a scene of the banquet being reenacted. In the scene, Rayburn appears harsh while Frederick stays cool. Lizzie screams, insisting their prince isn't like that. She also notices that this is the first time the mugs haven't sold out and wonders if something unusual really happened at the banquet. Angela admits she isn't sure. They overhear rumors that Frederick only showed his face briefly at the banquet before leaving, which some consider rude. Others say he lets his knight do all the work. Angela decides to work hard on the sequel. Soon, a masked person approaches the two girls. They realize he is the octopus vendor, a diehard Duke fan who always defends him and talks about the novel. As he comes closer, the scene of Angela dancing with the Crown Prince plays in their minds. Lizzie asks what it was like to dance with him. Angela thinks back, remembering that at that moment, the firefly's light was far prettier than the banquet hall's lights. The masked man standing beside them leans closer and says the rumors about Angela dancing with Prince Rayburn in the garden seem true. Angela freezes for a moment, then realizes the man is the Crown Prince. He whispers for her not to shout, explaining he came out in secret. Then he asks how it felt, as he dances with him. Something had happened earlier, he notes, but they are safe now. Angela apologizes for causing him so much trouble. He smiles and says it's thanks to her friend that he was able to escape after all. She laughs, marveling at how things turned out this way. A moment ago, people around him recognized him when Lizzie yelled. Angela feels flustered as the paparazzi chase them on horseback, but somehow she manages to get on a horse herself. Now, the Crown Prince tells her he should apologize. It's his fault for not knowing the way and for needing her help. Angela is glad she could assist. She can hardly believe she met him this early in the day in a place like this. She decides to watch her words and leave quickly, fearing she might make a mistake. Still, she guides him, describing the path he should follow to reach the castle as she dismounts. He remarks how lucky he is to have met her after getting lost on the streets. Angela wonders why he came alone. He explains that it's hard for him to relax in the palace. So many nights, so many responsibilities, and he couldn't stop thinking about her. Especially after she left him mid-dance at the banquet. Angela feels a pang of guilt. He continues, noting that he's always tied up in the castle, so finding his own way is difficult, which is why he got lost. Angela wonders what he means by tied up, recalling how, back when they were children, Rayburn would tremble whenever she got close to the birdcage he was trapped in. She wishes she could go back to those days and comfort him, but then she knew nothing. She calls to the Crown Prince, asking if he'd like to take a short walk nearby. She adds that it seems the castle was stifling him. She realizes she spoke to him as if she were talking to Rayburn, and quickly apologizes if it sounded inappropriate. He dismounts and admits it's the first time anyone has offered that to him. Then he requests that she show him around. Angela notices the pure joy on his face. He smiles like a child, and there's no way it's an act. Meanwhile, Prince Rayburn searches for Angela, concerned. People around continue talking about him as he looks around. They find him scary, having heard how he drove away the nobles at the banquet. Shortly, he shows them a sketch and asks if they've seen the person in it. They recognize her as Antenna, as they normally call Angela, and say they saw her earlier. They explain that she went toward the back end of the street on a horse with someone wearing a red cape. He echoes, "A cape?" They confirm it. He wonders if it's one of the Chancellor's men and fears she might be in danger. Without hesitation, he hurries toward the path. The two people are thrilled that the prince talks to them. They quickly get into their carriage, deciding to follow him and notice his hands trembling. Meanwhile, Angela can't believe she's going on a walk with a member of the prince's political opposition. Soon, she notices that the merch vendors from the night market are still around. The Crown Prince comments on how much there is to do in the dukedom. A woman approaches, asking if he's cosplaying as the Crown Prince. She jokes that he would also look good dressed as the prince from the Rise and continues marketing her goods. Wanting a break from the merchandise, Angela suggests they try the dart games. The Crown Prince notes that it's harder than archery. As she plays, she asks him questions and eventually wonders what he thinks about coming for walks occasionally with the future Crown Princess. She reasons it must be suffocating for her to stay in the castle all the time. Shortly after, she wins first place. The man in charge marvels at her skill and prepares the prize. She whispers that she wants to give the prize as a present to the Crown Prince. She collects the prize, a doll of Rayburn holding a rose, and decides to keep it. The Crown Prince nods, noting he can't bring the doll with him back to the castle. He thanks her for the day, saying it was fun. Angela admits she was worried she'd only be a nuisance. They approach the horse he had checked in earlier. He calls her and asks if she knows why he requested a dance from her at the banquet. From afar, Prince Rayburn spots them. He expresses surprise and thinks he should have at least brought a dagger along. As he approaches, he grabs a crate from a carriage, noting that he's borrowing it for a moment. Getting closer, he throws it at the Crown Prince, but someone appears instantly, knocking it away. He thinks there might be more than one of them, only to notice it's Frederick. Meanwhile, Bourbon, who blocked the item earlier, apologizes for tailing him and notes that it's time to go back since he's been away too long. Holding his hand, Angela asks if His Highness is hurt and wonders who would dare do such a thing. She thinks it might be Rayburn. People around are already talking about the incident. Frederick decides to take his leave before things escalate further. He tells her to pass his greetings to the Duke, since the Duke will probably know it was him. She accepts and asks what he was about to say earlier. He responds that they should save that for another day, and casually asks if she would accompany him on another stroll if there's a chance. She hesitates, unsure how to answer, and he leaves. Angela thinks the commotion might die down for a while after the banquet, but she decides to go pay for the dolls she picked up from the items thrown at the Crown Prince. She spots Rayburn standing there, speechless and looking sad. She tries to explain why she snuck out. He is about to say something when someone throws an egg at him, questioning why he is dressed like the prince so early in the morning. They claim the novel was just a ploy to boast the Duke's image and call it a waste of money. He ignores them and covers his face. Angela moves closer, asking if he's all right. She notes to herself that he probably didn't know the crate he threw was full of merch, but people might still misunderstand. He admits that even if he had known, he still would have thrown it. Angela feels sad. In his mind, he reasons that it was a situation where he had no choice. Meanwhile, Bourbon, holding a doll of the Crown Prince, wonders if he can really fix things. He notices Frederick looking sad, but it seems that coming out of the castle has been good for him. Shortly, some guards inform him that the general is looking for him. Enjoying this story so far? Comment Angela below for part 3. Until next time, ciao.